reward of $5,000 is now being offered for any information on this case. In southern Alabama, Daphne police discovered two men who were injured by gunshot wounds. The 20 and 18-year-old were found inside a van at an apartment complex where police were called in due to shots fired. Both men have been hospitalized. I'm Andrea Tice.
For more news affecting Alabamians, go to 1819news.com. And while you're there, subscribe to the daily newsletter.
Hi there, I'm Kim Williams with Alabama Home Mortgage.
And I'm Madeline Cannon. It's true, rates aren't as low as they have been for the past couple of years, but there are still many homeowners that could benefit from refinancing their current mortgage. There are a lot of things in life that are out of our control, but your mortgage rate is not one of them. If you currently have an adjustable rate mortgage, then you owe it to yourself to give us a call.
Adjustable rate mortgages make sense for some people in stable markets, but in this wild, ever-changing rate environment, it only makes sense to secure a fixed interest rate. A fixed interest rate will give you the peace of mind that your rate is locked. Your rate will not be subject to change with the political and economic tides.
At Alabama Home Mortgage, you can personalize your term. We offer 8-year to 30-year mortgages and everything in between. Grab your mortgage statement and give us a call.
Call Alabama Home Mortgage, the #1 mortgage lender in Alabama, today at 567-4223, or visit us online at myalabamahomemortgage.com. That's Alabama Home Mortgage, because, folks, there is a difference in mortgage companies. NMLS 1586-36A, Equal Housing Lender.
The views and opinions of the following program are solely those of the host and other contributors. These do not necessarily represent those of Liberty Acquisitions 825, Blue Water Broadcasting, its management, staff, or any advertisers. It's time for Montgomery's conversational radio show. It's news and views on News Talk 93.1 FM. To join the conversation, call 272-9228.
How you conduct yourself in a democracy.
Joey Clark.
Welcome into the program. You're on an overcast, stormy Thursday out of Montgomery, Alabama. I'm your host, Joey Clark. Plenty to get to today, including National Security Advisor Mike Waltz is fired by Trump. He is no longer the National Security Advisor. Also, his deputy, Alex Wong. These are the guys that accidentally screwed the pooch when it came to the whole signal gate. Accidentally. Accidentally. Also, knives out for anybody trying to make peace in this world. Steve Witkoff under attack by the neoconservatives. So, you know, we'll see. We'll get to all that. But all bets are off, folks. The Attorney General raids Pinson and Lipscomb bingo halls after Jefferson County Commission ends business licenses renewal. And the person that wrote all that up, Erica Thomas, now on the phone. Of course, she's there at 1819news.com. Hey, Erica, how you doing?
Howdy, Joey. I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm great. I'm feeling high in life.
Oh, wow. That is amazing.
Yeah, it's a good feeling. Well, actually, I was able to give my mother's scholarship away to two young, beautiful, talented women at Montgomery Catholic. Gave them each a $2,500 scholarship for tuition, and made me feel good doing that and remembering my mother.
That is amazing. That is great of you to do. And it's in the name of your mother?
Absolutely. And they almost got me. They put up this beautiful photo of her in front of the flowers in her old backyard. I'm like, y'all ain't going to get me. I ain't crying today.
Wow.
But,
sometimes it's good for a man to cry. You know, it's okay. Just let it go.
Yeah, but if I let it go, when will it stop?
Yeah, it's true. I don't know. I'm sure that your mother would give you the strength from heaven to suck it up, Buttercup.
Well, tell us about this story. The Attorney General raids Pinson Lipscomb bingo halls. This is after the Jefferson County Commission ends business licenses renewal. That's no fun for the folks that were operating there in that legal gray zone.
Yeah, for several years now, you've seen these bingo halls popping up along mostly, well, I can't say mostly, just all around Jefferson County, but there are some hot spots, and those are in Lipscomb, along Bessemer Superhighway in West Jefferson County, And then in East Jefferson County, you have the Pinson Valley Parkway corridor, where there have been one after another. The AG will come in, shut it down, and it'll open right back up because for a long time the Jefferson County Commission was renewing business license and offering business licenses for electronic bingo halls. At the same time, Jefferson County Sheriff Mark Petway refused to enforce any laws on electronic bingo, and he said that at the beginning of his first term, that he just didn't have time to deal with that because he had a lot of other issues, such as, a high homicide rate, high crime, property crimes, things like that to look at. So he didn't worry about these gambling operations, which, by the way, are breeding grounds for those crimes that he was so worried about. But he came back, and after the commission last year decided they would no longer renew those business licenses because obviously things were getting out of control and the sheriff was not enforcing the law. They said, we're not going to do this anymore. We're not going to give you business licenses anymore. And so then Sheriff Petway came out and kind of had a turnaround. He was like, oh, I'm so glad they're doing that. We really don't need those around here. So it was a situation that started last year. The AG's office came in and started raiding some of these places. Now, the one that was raided yesterday near Pittston, that one's been raided before. And then in Lipscomb, there was one that was raided. Well, in Lipscomb, the city has been involved in the bingo business. So their city assets were frozen last year because of their involvement in that. So this is nothing new. It's just a new raid. We'll see if anything actually happens. Who knows? The good thing is that the Jefferson County Commission will no longer give these business licenses out, but now is anybody going to be held accountable for what they're doing? This is illegal gambling. These places are just dilapidated buildings. They don't take care of the buildings at all. The property values around these places have got to plummet. In fact, when I moved from Jefferson County, about 3 months before I moved, a new bingo hall opened up about a mile down the road. And just was a little more, it's probably a mile and a half. I want to be accurate on that. But a couple of weeks ago, I saw there was a shooting at that place. Surprise, surprise. I mean, the crime in the area, that was in the Clay area, that's going to increase with these things. People don't want them there. They're dangerous for people. People get so hooked in there. I've talked to a lady who works at one of them off Pinson Valley Parkway, and she told me that she has people that are there that don't have anything. They're already broke, and they'll stay in there all night long. They go to work during the day, and then they come at night and stay literally all night long until they have to go back to work. And she said it's so sad because they work all day to make money, and then they just trash it in these places. And she said that the operators of this place are bringing in, so much money. Like if you go in the back and look at all their money, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars. And that's why you've had robberies and such at those places, because they have all this money in their safe. But the Attorney General, Steve Marshall, has previously said that's why these are such great locations for money laundering operations, because they already have so much money in there. They can just kind of sneak in, more money from drug sales and that sort of thing. So it's an interesting story. I feel like, it's like the Jack in the Box. You keep spin it, it finally pops out, and then you close it back again. You got to spin it again before it pops back out again. So I don't know if anything's really going to happen with this in the long run, but it's interesting to keep up with and see the changes that are being made.
Well, it looks like the sheriff has changed his tune. He's saying that he's happy they're not going to renew these business licenses. And so it's almost like he didn't want to do it when the money was coming in, but now he's kind of like, yeah, it's more problems than it's worth. Thank you to the AG. Thank you to the county commission. Good riddance.
Yes, that's what it kind of sounds like. Yep.
Oh, we'll see. And I'm wondering if the attorney general is going to make any moves elsewhere in the state. No, this is just pure speculation, but what say you?
I'm sure there have always been hot spots. everybody knows those hot spots where they are, especially if you live in that area. He hasn't let off of this since the beginning of his term, and that's about to be over soon. So it'll be interesting to see who takes over as Attorney General eventually and see if they actually do anything. This has always been an Attorney General issue. I remember back in the day with Troy King, when I was working in Montgomery, that was just all an interesting time for me. I used to think that politics were boring, which is so funny to me because it's really like the real House husbands of Alabama. You know, it's like watching a Bravo reality show. Always something crazy going on. So, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how the next Attorney General handles electronic bingo. I think that Steve Marshall has been extremely strong-armed on this. He has just really kept going at these places. He's not getting fatigued by the fact that the local authorities are not enforcing laws that they should be enforcing. He's not being intimidated, by anyone who just continues to ignore what the law is. So I think he's done a great job at that. He's been very strong. He's done all he can do, but at some point his hands are tied, and it really is up to local authorities to do their job.
Right. Well, and then you get the whole game of every legislative session. People talk about, hey, how do we legalize some of these operations? And I know, obviously, the Port Creek Indians are a very different situation. It's more all these legacy places, some that are nicer than others. Sound like the ones you're describing are like little strip malls and just wretched. But it's amazing how, on one hand, we have an attorney general strongly enforcing this stuff, and then on the other hand, we're figuring out how to legitimize certain interests in the state other than the Native Americans. So it's just, I don't know. What a mess. What a mess.
Yeah, and that is a whole different story, in my opinion. I think if these places were legal, then Attorney General Steve Marshall would say, well, it's legal now. The law's the law. So it's totally different kind of operations, a totally different issue. And right now it's very illegal, period. It's very, very illegal. There's illegal things going on in those places, period. Like, no question. I mean, none. No question. You can just go to them, and you need to be careful. That's all I'm saying. And these are those seedy type places that you'll see, in rural areas, which is not Victoryland by any stretch of the imagination. This is totally different kind of bingo halls. So, and it really is a local matter. The local authorities need to do their job so that the state doesn't have to get involved.
Now, I want to shift gears and end with this on just a fun human interest story that I think a lot of folks already know about, but the 2025 mullet toss underway. And you kind of have a backstory, a little bit of the history, how this all got going.
Yeah, now that was this past weekend. I actually went for the first time ever. I saw a total of 3 mullets being tossed, and then I saw other things, but I actually got there after they had the really good part where they're throwing the mullets really, really far. But yeah, it was very interesting. There was a lot of people there. They said around 10,000 people over the course of the weekend showed up and watched people throw these poor dead fish carcasses. Quite gross. But this all started because of something even more disgusting, in my opinion, which was a cow chip throw. And a lot of people from the Midwest and the West might have done these. It's a big deal out there. They'll have cow chip throw events, and cow chip is obviously cow dung. So they just throw it, see who can throw it the furthest. Well, one of the owners of Floribama was out west, Joe Gilchrist. He was out there years and years ago, about 40 years ago, and he saw one of these cow chip throw events, and he thought on his way back, he was like, we need to do something like that at Floribama where we get people to throw stuff and, make it a competition. But obviously you can't take cow poop out on the beach. That would be...
Well, you could, but probably ill-advised.
I think that's got to be against some kind of law, but who knows? I know you can't take your dog out there because of that. So who knows? I'll ask the Gulf Shores Police and the Orange Beach Police if there's an Alabama state law prohibiting taking cow dung onto the white sandy beaches, and I'll get back with you on that. Oh, anyway, so he got back, and him and Pat McClellan, who is also owner of the Floribama, they have an awesome group of guys that own that place. They were sitting out, and they came up with the idea, let's toss mullet. You know, they're slippery, they're disgusting, they have all the things, and then mullet is a huge commodity in the Gulf of America. So, you know, they said, this is a good idea, let's do this, and that's how it all got started 39 years ago. So next year will be the 40th anniversary. I bet they're going to have a big blowout next year.
And this had around 30,000 people. Yeah, I think you're right. This might even be bigger for next year. And, well, I always appreciate, especially these reports from the Gulf Coast culture down there, the Gulf of America. And Erica, if folks want to check out what you're writing about or maybe give you a lead on a story, how can they get in touch with you?
Definitely go to 1819news.com. You can click the right button on the top right. It's red for exclusive content. You could also email news@1819news.com to get in touch with all of us. And don't miss out on our newsletter. You got to get that every day. We'll send you the top headlines. And these are stories you won't see anywhere else. So you're definitely going to want to check it out.
Well, I appreciate it as always.
Thank you so much. God bless.
God bless. Again, folks, it's Erica Thomas there with 1819news.com. Eddie Bader and Byron Sheehy here in the studio. How you two gentlemen doing?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good.
Pretty good?
Yeah. Dry for now, man.
Dry for now.
For now.
Yeah, it's just it's going to be coming in and out, in and out.
Yeah.
It's not too crazy today, thank God.
Nah, just a little front come through would be good.
You ever throw a cow pie?
Of course.
You have?
Of course.
Why?
To hit somebody with it? It's a friendly gesture of, hey,
it was a friendly gesture.
Yeah.
Not in competition, just
hey.
Just because he was standing there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also a good way to start a fire.
Start a fire?
Yeah. Drowned cow patty.
Oh, yeah. You know, that makes sense.
I don't.
Good kindling?
I don't cook on it, but yeah.
That's it. Now I'm going to cook up some Kaneka sauce.
Right.
Just like, nah,
It's
man.
a special kind of flavor you got here.
Yeah, that's musky.
But yeah, I mean, growing up around that, that's.
You ever thrown a mullet?
Yep.
See, I've never done the mullet toss down there at the
I don't think I've ever done it down there. We've seen it, but I've thrown mullet. I mean,
You've thrown fish?
Yeah.
I'm just looking at you, and I'm like, he's throwing all sorts of things.
A family here in Cloverdale used to have a little block party and kind of do their own fish toss, mullet toss.
That's pretty cool.
All
idea.
right.
Yeah.
Why did it go away?
Because unfortunately the gentleman passed away.
Oh, man.
It was Mullet Martin.
Oh.
The photographer.
Okay. Sounds like that was a good tradition.
No, we need to bring some of that back.
Mullet could throw a party, sir.
The best was, and I don't know if they'll ever bring it back, just the times we live in, but the river raft race in Montgomery.
The river raft race.
You brought whatever you could bring and you put it in the river.
Raft.
Yeah.
Nice.
And you go down river for, I don't know how far, I forget. I think Powder Magazine Parks where you got back out. Dude, I'm telling you, there would be, I don't want to say thousands, but there would be at least 1,000 people. Everybody heavily drunk with the craziest banners and just like bicycles that were turned into floats and things like that. It was big old party. And that's back when they called it Lake Montgomery, not the Alabama River. It was Lake Montgomery.
Lake Montgomery.
Yeah, I think that was a Fob James thing.
Really?
Funny.
Yeah. That sounds like a Fob James thing.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Do you think anybody was high?
Man, please. Yeah.
No, nobody was smoking the.
Dude, it was like
marijuana?
70, I'd say 77 to mid 80s. So yeah, there was
all the people in this community.
Yeah, there was some reefer being
straight
smoked down there.
arrows.
I mean, I can't believe that.
Yeah.
I mean, why? Like we're good good folks.
Lots of beers, lots of the weed. That's how it went, and lots of people. And I bet there were some marriages.
Oh, marriage on that weekend.
I know there were some divorces.
Definitely some babies.
Yeah,
people fell in love.
Yes. It was better than Mortar Creek. Mortar Creek used to be one of those
Other
places.
people that they shouldn't have.
Yeah. Hey, you made sure you didn't fall in love with your cousin. That was the best way to do that. I mean, this is Alabama. So.
Now, about man, it's already about a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago, November of 2023. I pinned a little op-ed there for 1819 News, and I just have the desire for some reason to read it.
All right.
But first, a little bit of history. You know, H.L. Mencken, one of my favorites, he was the one that coined the phrase Puritanism. He coined the phrase that Puritanism is the belief that someone somewhere is having fun.
Oh.
And it's the fear of it.
Yes.
And that can't happen. And it's not so much the prohibitionists done, if they really were with like friends in a back room, they'll sip a little peach schnapps.
Mhm.
But everybody ruins their general good time when they get really drunk and lit. And 5 years of prohibition Mencken wrote this in 1925. 5 years of prohibition have had at least this one benign effect. They've completely disposed of all the favorite arguments of the prohibitionists. None of the great boons and usufructs, that's an old school term, that were to follow the passage of the 18th Amendment has come to pass. There is not less drunkenness in the Republic, but more. There is not less crime, but more. There is not less insanity, but more. The cost of government is not smaller, but vastly greater. Respect for law has not increased, but diminished. And again, I said this years ago, and folks are just now, I guess they weren't paying attention, or maybe they just don't agree. But the war on pot has been lost.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, it was lost long ago. In fact, I think it's high time prohibitionists admitted the truth. Pot fought the law, and pot won. Yes, like most recent American wars, the war on pot tragically continues. Despite a slow, shameful defeat, the federal government insists on executing a long, drawn-out retreat that only becomes more farcical by the day. Much like the wars in Afghanistan and Ukraine, the feds continue to explain away the failure of their pot prohibition campaign as proof positive that they are on the right side of history. And being on the right side of history is never easy. Lost causes must always be dolled up in moral preening. The notion that the war on pot was always on the wrong side of history for moral and practical reasons is never entertained by those devoted to the losing struggle. However, it's not just the feds who feign to fight this moral crusade against the devil's lettuce. After all, every retreating army needs a courageous rearguard regiment. And the state of Alabama has been more than happy to bring up the rear against reefer's slow advance. The rule of law may be up in smoke, yet some in the heart of Dixie still refuse to get the joke. And don't kid yourself, it's a joke that the law stops Alabamians from buying cannabis. I mean that in two ways. The law itself is a joke, but so too is the idea that the law stops much of anyone in Alabama from firing up a fatty. We still have de jure laws here in Alabama prohibiting pot. There are still laws on the books, sure. But the de facto state of these laws suggests smoke them if you got them. As the delta between what the law says and how it actually is upheld grows greater, the more it makes a mockery of justice and unnecessarily limits economic opportunity to the shadows. Indeed, the quote-unquote rule of law may be the greatest casualty in this never-ending failed war on marijuana. Through an informal process of changing cultural attitudes, the laws against cannabis have slowly lost their legitimacy, with law enforcement also losing trust and respect along the way. The formal law is now selectively enforced with little threat of serious punishment. This is progress of a kind for the cause of liberty, I suppose. Yet the continued arbitrary and flaccid enforcement also makes the law seem even more unjust for those few unlucky souls who do yet suffer government harassment for possessing pot. That said, for anyone willing and able to run such risk of buying their weed illegally, this may prove to be an optimal scenario wherein the authorities pretend to regulate the potheads while the potheads pretend to be regulated by the man. Funny enough, this legal gray area probably allows for more individual liberty and a greater free market than any outright weed legalization scheme. Informal delegitimization of the law is often a more effective strategy than any formal legalization process, especially when dealing with an entrenched government bureaucracy resistant to change. Accordingly, cannabis legalization schemes are too often rife with artificial scarcity and high cost barriers to entry through an overly burdensome regime of taxes, fees, and regulations that effectively enshrine the oligarchic trading of special privileges into law. Just look at Alabama's attempts to legalize medical marijuana. Again, I wrote this in November of 2023. Where are we today? Is it
Seems about
May 1st, 2025?
Yes. Right where we were when you wrote that, probably.
It's kind of just crazy, but the incredibly restrictive and heavy-handed regulatory system called for by the 2021 Compassion Act has yet to become operational 2 years after being signed into law. I guess it's now 4 years. The system has unsurprisingly proven difficult to stand up, creating a flurry of lawsuits against the Alabama Medical Cannabis Commission. That said, there is no need to accuse anyone on the commission of malfeasance. Given the way this particular legal regime was designed by the legislature, such quote-unquote inefficiencies were bound to be a feature, not a bug, no matter what good people were put in charge of its implementation. Yet even as the AMCC has struggled to implement the Compassion Act, rest assured, plenty of cannabis has been bought and sold in Alabama in the meantime, illegally but easily. I suspect even after the medical cannabis industry becomes fully operational in Alabama, we're still waiting, plenty more cannabis will be bought and sold in Alabama illegally and easily. Even though the federal government still considers marijuana a Schedule I drug under the Controlled Substances Act, defying common sense, hundreds of billions of dollars worth of marijuana is still bought and sold every day in America, from sea to shining sea, illegally and easily. Advocates of cannabis use often overstate the benefits and downplay the cost of the drug. Like anything else, cannabis can be abused to awful effects, deleterious effects on health and well-being, and may affect some people more adversely than others. But the last remaining pot prohibitionists also make a similar mistake. They too overstate the benefits of prohibition while downplaying its costs and effectiveness. Just as was seen in the 1920s under alcohol prohibition, respect for the law under pot prohibition is not increased, but diminished. Indeed, when the law becomes a joke, there might as well be no law at all. And seriously, I don't even want them to, just leave us alone. The Alabama legislature has proven themselves inept at actually standing up any sort of legal regime at this point.
I have a question. If a patient had to go to Florida, they had a doctor down there, got a prescription, and they came back here to Alabama, would that be honored?
Nope.
No. So they passed a law that says that medical is permittable.
Right.
Huh.
Yep.
Right.
That'd be interesting. I think the person traveling would actually have a very valid argument.
You would think so if they were just passing through, but no. I mean, just passing through.
The state has no. I'm talking about a resident, dual resident Alabama.
But what if I'm coming from Colorado and I have that license and I'm going to Florida just by passing through? Busted. I got a license in each state. Does it matter? No. It's like being busted drinking in a dry county.
Oh, you've been busted drinking in a dry county? That sounds like a country song if I ever heard one.
It's not a good time. It's you realize how ridiculous some things are.
Busted drinking in a dry county.
He must have been down to Geneva County at some point.
It was north, but it's just
my only run-in with that was after I was up in T-Town. I was up in Tuscaloosa as college, visiting friends who were going to that university. I much prefer the Cal College.
We call it the capstone.
And had a great time. I think it was some huge game, Alabama LSU. Remember that low-scoring, really late-night game?
Yes.
All those years ago.
About that.
But you know what I'm talking about. And by the way, the vibe after that, talk about drinking and people getting lit. You know how a vibe at a party goes from everybody's having fun to there's a darkness starts to creep in?
Yep.
The vibe on the streets I think we're at the Houndstooth watching the game. And it was fun, but the vibe on the street as you walked out is we need to get home right now.
It started getting dark, man.
Yeah.
Well,
it was getting nasty. But I was the next day, I was, hair of the dog and going, and it was on the interstate and they're like, no, you can't buy here. It's Sunday. I'm like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, I had never run into that.
Yeah.
In Tuscaloosa?
No, it was outside as we got down the road a little bit. It wasn't in Tuscaloosa.
Still the county.
I'm wondering which county it was, but it was, and they didn't say it was all the time. It was just Sunday.
Yeah, Sundays.
And I'm like, okay.
Having to explain that to my friends, especially when Hyundai had opened up and people were coming. You're like, hey, make sure you buy Sunday beer. You're like, what do you mean? Well, Saturday night you got to buy enough beer for Sunday. What that causes you to drink more on Saturday night and still be out of beer on Sunday.
And also, what's amazing to me is original alcohol prohibition was one of the major victories of who? The early 20th century progressives.
Yep.
And so we have this strain in this state, and it shows up beyond just so-called stopping vice. It shows up in every industry and everything we do, where you have a select elite who are inside the room who get to have special privileges over everybody else because we know better than you.
That should be the Alabama motto.
Right.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
So we're like progressives here in this state still, but instead of it being like, we're going to, put a penis on your daughter or something if she believes that, we're going to instead restrict you in all sorts of different ways, but not do it very well at the end of the day. In fact, actually, we'll loosen it back up. And the same state that tried to restrict all these things is now going to make a boatload of money off of it.
Yep.
And nobody can privately engage in this sort of activity.
There we go.
Well,
it's ridiculous.
A few people are going to make a boatload of money.
Right.
Yeah, they work for the state.
No, a bunch of individuals are going to make.
Oh,
quite a
yeah.
few.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's sickening. But hey, the voters okay with it. Everybody's like, okay.
The
Better go.
voters
go.
aren't okay with that. I mean, that was done up there, man. I mean, like if you would have told the Alabama voters that this is how it was going to turn out, they wouldn't have voted for that.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have.
Well,
and still to this day, again, that thing I just read, I wrote in November of 2023 or May of 2025, and the Cannabis Commission, the Medical Cannabis Commission, is still not stood up.
No, but it's just like gambling. If they did legalize gambling here, imagine that it'd be 10 years before it ever got done until enough people had enough money said, hey, it's worth it for us to get this gambling going.
And people are going to think like the Porch Creek Indians are paying me, but I'm at the point of just do a lottery, just do sports betting, and let the Porch Creek. Then I think what people are worried about is that would trigger a compact, like the Porch Creek could go ahead with Class 3.
Oh, no.
And so now they're like, well, but what about all these other kind of in the legal gray area that like Steve Marshall just cracked down on?
Yeah.
Like, screw them.
Yeah.
Let's just get this done. I'm tired of that. Tired of it.
What about them, right?
And I'm not like people are bad people. It's just like, well, some of you are.
Yeah.
Well, some of them are. But my general point is like, okay, just it seems a little absurd. You can't go on DraftKings during March Madness here in this state.
No, it's crazy to me, and I used to not have an issue with this, but this town smells like pot. But pot's still illegal. I mean, it smells like burnt pot. It smells like raw pot. And this town smells like pot.
Perpetual springtime.
But it's illegal as it can be.
Oh, yeah, man.
So how can I ever take any law seriously when you're telling me, hey, pot's
This is
illegal?
my
I smell
point.
it everywhere.
How is it illegal whenever they sell it in every gas station? I mean,
I know. I agree.
Well, and
Then
that's,
it's the hypocrisy.
It's not quite
of
the
it.
same thing. Either.
Yeah.
Does it have THC in it?
Yes, it does.
There
And
you go.
now
But that's not the same.
Yeah,
thing.
but hey,
How is it not the same
here's
thing?
Because there's all sorts of other good stuff
Does
in
near
there.
beer have alcohol in it?
Near beer?
Yeah, like O'Doul's. I don't know.
I don't know.
I would think not.
No.
Or
Then-
Heine Zero or
Right.
whatever.
Then
Alcohol-
how can
No.
if THC is illegal? How can we sell it at the convenience store just at a
Well, it's
limited
illegal by a
amount?
certain volume.
No, it's a certain
I thought it was-
percentage.
Yeah,
Period.
that's what I mean. A certain
So if I
percentage
get
by
some really
volume.
bad weed, hey, officer, test that. It might not be that good.
Under the
Mhm.
farm bill, I think it's either 0.3 or 0.5,
Mhm.
somewhere in that range.
Yeah, I think it's a 0.3 because
but
I
if
think
you
that's the
ask
amount
a
you see.
cop
right,
on the
by
street,
volume.
hey, can you test legal versus illegal, like on the street?
No, but if I do that, work at a job that drug tests me, I get fired. I've broken no laws.
Yeah, they can set their own regulations.
But my doctor probably said, hey, I get a doctor excuse. Said, hey, you can smoke these fake marijuana cigarettes. I mean, it's just the hypocrisy of it makes me sick. I'm a grown adult. I want to go smoke some pot, drink some beer, and I ain't bother nobody. Leave me alone.
Yeah.
Leave me alone. And do you
That's
know,
what you
and
think.
it goes back to the old argument, how many violent potheads you know?
No, the argument people are making now, though, is like, I mean,
It's a starter drug.
well, no, there's some people like it is increasing violent crime or whatever. And it's a lot of, I think, crappy correlation and statistics. And I also will say,
disagree.
and it's the point I made 2 years ago in that piece. Advocates of cannabis use often overstate the benefits and downplay the cost of the drug. Like anything in life, especially drugs,
bitch.
there are costs. And yeah, if there are people out there getting like concentrate and dabbing up and they can't even think straight, yeah, that probably has awful effects for you in the long run.
Any different than the drugs you see on TV? You just got to ask the doctor about.
Right. This is the point.
Right.
But everything has a cost.
Yes.
So don't overstate the benefits and downplay the cost. But again, when everything gets into politics, and we got to hit a break. My last point. I will listen to somebody all day, every day, who says weed's bad for you for this, that, and the other reason. I'll listen to you all day. And in fact, you might even persuade me in a lot of ways. But if you lead with, that's why we need to use the force of law to stop that guy who ain't bothering everybody because you know better than him and you know it's bad for him.
Yeah.
That's when you lose me. If you're trying to persuade me, persuade me. But you're not trying to persuade me.
Educate
Trying to
you,
force
let
you.
you make your own decision.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're trying to just put up what you can, and the cannabis advocates do it too. It's this propaganda game where everybody's trying to fight over the force of law. Who's going to use the gun of government to actually enforce things? When instead, whatever happened to, like persuading people, whatever happened to social sanctions? Like you can't be a part of this church or this community if you do that stuff. That's a pretty good.
That's pretty good. Yeah, that's
it
pretty good
keeps
rule to
people
go
in line.
by.
You can't work these certain jobs.
That's very good.
Yes,
Haven't
there's
done one.
all sorts of ways you can regulate people's behavior. Or you could go, hey, man, I love you. This reason, that reason, the other reason, you should probably stop doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And instead, we're sitting here arguing over crap laws that don't even work.
Yes.
Ah.
Yes.
Anyway, we got plenty more coming up in the program, especially like I said at the beginning of the show, National Security Advisor Mike Waltz has been walked out of the White House along with his aide, Alex Wong. And I guess Trump waited long enough. And I do wonder, because this whole campaign against Hegseth, it made me, especially as it started to marinate over time, like, I think it's coming from Waltz. I think it's coming from Waltz. I think it's coming from certain people on the National Security Council that are trying to undermine the sort of America First foreign policy.
I don't think it took that long. I think
it took me a week or two. I like to let things play out, because Walt's explanation of this was just wretched
from the beginning.
Yes, but I was still like, well, what's going on here? Was he screwed? Like, what happened here? Like, who's actually got the knife out and has the fingerprints on the knife?
Well, I mean, he had to be held accountable. I mean,
right.
Him.
But realize that a lot of the media was using it not to go after Mike Waltz.
No,
they're going after Pete Hegseth.
Well, there were a lot of people in there.
And that's fascinating.
They're just getting anybody out they could.
So we'll see. We'll see more of the cleanup. And plus, Trump has been on the offensive media-wise, like coming out swinging yesterday with this big presentation. Yeah, we were supposed to have Senator Britt on the show yesterday, and they said we got to reschedule. We had a big White House event last second. That big White House event was like Trump bringing every major CEO who's investing in America. Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary, and something like $8 trillion of investment.
Nice.
At one point, Trump's like, "Ooh, you see that brand new drone there? You know, you go golfing and you see one of those in the sky. It's like, honey, let's go home. Let's go inside. That's scary, man."
Did you see where Neocon's CEO said that they have the biggest backlog in like their history on orders for steel?
I believe it.
I'm glad to see that it's primed up.
And even though you're seeing terrible numbers because you're cutting spending, you are seeing a massive investment, private investment, including in like capital investment, like machinery and yet standing up buildings and stuff. And if I got the clip, so I don't have the exact number right off the top of my head, but it's something like the amount of private investment, especially capital investment that was seen in the first quarter, despite this awful GDP number, was about the equivalent of the entire past year and a half in just one quarter. So a lot of folks in the Trump administration are like, yeah, just wait. We're going in the direction we want to go.
I told you what my number was, and that was the top of the line number. So
we'll see as it plays out. This part of the program brought to you by James Cole and Cole Plumbing, and they're at Cole Plumbing. They're ready to help you with any and all of your plumbing needs. Could be an everyday problem, like you turn on the shower and it's just drip, drip, drip. It's like, I can't get clean. As Trump said the other day at that big rally in Michigan, what did he say? I need that water to come on out.
Pressure.
I've got this luxuriant, that's the word he used, luxuriant hair. I need all the water I can get to get in there. And so if you're like Trump and you got that luxuriant hair.
Yes, I do.
And you actually want to get cleaned up. If you got a water pressure issue, Cole Plumbing can help you with that. Of course, it could be a clogged drain. Could be you want to upgrade. Tankless water heater system. Maybe you want a new garbage disposal in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Could be you want to add new accessories to the bathroom. Taller toilet even. Nicer toilet. Like a Japanese toilet. It talks to you.
With the two buttons.
It's very soothing. I hear. I've never tried it, but one of these days, I'd like to try that. Anyway, the point is Cole Plumbing can help you out with any and all of your plumbing needs, including if you have a major problem like a gas line leak, or it could be you have a big water leak inside or outside your home. They have the technology that allows them to solve that problem without creating a big mess, like tearing out drywall, digging up a huge hole in the yard. No, with precision and expertise, they can get the job done. So call up Cole Plumbing today. In fact, save their number just in case you ever do have an issue. 279-8919. That's 279-8919. And just remember, folks, when you have trouble with your bowl,
call on Cole, Joey.
We'll be right back.
Want to carry News Talk in your pocket? Download the News Talk 93.1 app from the App Store. Available on iPhone and Android. Never miss a moment. Download now. It's time to show Mom how much you appreciate her with a Jenny Lynn's floral creation for Mother's Day. Skip the grocery store flowers and make one quick call. 285-1000. Roses, lilies, beautiful bouquets, and gift baskets designed just for Mom. Call Jenny Lynn's Creations 285-1000.
For reliable electrical services in Central Alabama, trust the experts at Crosby Electric. Crosby's licensed and insured electricians are ready to tackle any project for your home, from troubleshooting, repairs, to installing new lighting and preventive maintenance. And Crosby understands the need for quality service for small business. Crosby is big enough for the largest job, yet small enough to bring real value. Visit CrosbyElectric.com to schedule your service. Crosby, powering Central Alabama with excellence.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
Chuck McDowell here. If you were misled or lied to in any way when buying a timeshare, right now is your wake-up call. With the tariffs, economy tanking, and inflation rising, you might need to ask yourself this question. Is owning a timeshare a good idea? With all the economic uncertainty, you need to protect yourself and your family. Don't look back and say, if I'd have only got rid of that stupid timeshare they lied to me about. It's time to stop thinking about canceling your timeshare and finally get rid of it and be smart with your money. At Wesley Financial Group, we've saved 48,000 families an average of $65,000 in lifetime payments. Give us a call. I guarantee if we take you as a client, we will cancel your timeshare permanently or you'll pay nothing.
Call Wesley for your free timeshare exit kit. 800-939-1331. 800-939-1331. 800-939-1331.
For too long, Alabama's statewide news companies have shamed us for our conservative Christian values. Alabama deserves a news company that cherishes our culture, a company that isn't bought and paid for by the powers that be. 1819 News is that company. Run by Alabamians for Alabamians, 1819 News celebrates what is good and beautiful about our state while exposing those who work against our values in secret. Just go to 1819news.com to learn more. Subscribe to our newsletter. That's 1819news.com.
I'm Jim Smith with Adams Drugs, and what our customers say about our business is the most important advertising tool. I'm here with Ronnie Taunton, who is a longtime customer of Adams Drugs, moved away for 3 years, and came back to town recently. Ronnie, how easy was it to move your business back to Adams Drugs?
Jim, it was very easy. All we did was make a phone call to the store in Prattville. That's where we live now, and they took it from there, and I didn't do anything else.
What has your overall experience been like here at Adams Drugs?
Well, we are glad to be back with Adams. We've had quite an experience in some towns we lived in, and they have great service. You can tell that the employees are glad to be there to serve you, and I couldn't ask for any more. Whatever formula the Vinson family has, they need to keep it in a safe place because it's certainly working.
Come into any of our 12 Adams Drugs locations. Visit us at adamsdrugs.net to find the location nearest to you. Adams Drugs is your independently owned Health Mart pharmacy. Health Mart, taking the time to listen and care.
This is your roving reporter, and today I am talking with an elk. Hey man, Mr. Elk, I was just wondering, what do elk do to take care of their money? Well, like most smart folks, we call David Ernest. You mean Alabama's most favorite asset preservationist? That's him, man. We call him up at 334-279-7431 or 205-479-0839. I see. Yes, he is our preferred money man. The money man with the money plan. You've been paying attention. Well, could you give us those numbers one more time? 334-279-7431 or 205-479-0839. And I just want to try to give you a heads up, man. Oh, what's that? I'm not an elk. Not an elk, huh? Well, then, pray tell, what are you? Knights of Columbus. I am not even going to make a comment. Well, the baby liked it.
Rich Thomas weather brought to you by Clark Heating, Air, and Plumbing.
Hey, this is Robbie Clark. Stay cool with a spring tune-up with Clark Heating, Air, and Plumbing. Don't wait. Schedule today. Give us a call at 334-277-2125. Alabama certification number 09098.
Rich Thomas weather.
We've been talking about some weather changes as a cold front approaches the state. Today, though, relatively routine. Another very warm day on this first day of May with a high in the upper 80s and maybe some spotty, widely scattered afternoon showers, maybe a thunderstorm. Then tonight, scattered showers and thunderstorms. Mild, overnight low temperature 65. The showers and storms will be in greater numbers on Friday night, and then again on Saturday afternoon as a front enters the state and then stalls. Friday's high 84 will be up to around 80 on Saturday and Sunday, and noticeably cooler by Sunday night. Jacket weather again with the overnight low temperature in the mid-50s. From the Blue Water Weather Center, this is Rich Thomas.
Budget Floors and More is your low price leader for everything you need for flooring and DIY flooring installation supplies. For the best prices on luxury vinyl plank, carpet, ceramic tile, flooring installation supplies, and more, shop Budget Floors and More, Hunter Lane across from Del Rey to Publix.
Trustworthy, accurate, immediate. Carrying your voice across the river region. News Talk 93.1 FM WACV.
Joey Clark.
Welcome back. What a day, what a day, what a day. 272-9228 if you want to get in on the conversation. Think I should talk about that thing I just learned about?
Yeah, it's news.
Yeah, well, okay, so there was apparently a get-together with like Chamber of Commerce types.
Yeah.
And it was at a particular bank. And a certain commissioner was speaking. I believe it was Doug Singleton.
Mm-hmm.
And he's talking about all sorts of issues. And I'd imagine if I had to give a speech like that, how do we get business humming here? And, keep business here, attract more business, education and crime, right? Pretty basic.
Those are your two big things, and jobs.
And so as a conversation comparable to that, I wasn't there. I hadn't heard the speech. But as that's going on, a woman runs into the bank kind of hysterical that she just was robbed.
Wow.
In the parking lot.
In the parking lot.
And I don't know if that was done for like dramatic effect to make the point sink, or if it was just the worst coincidence in the world, but it's just like, yep.
I don't think you'd say something like that. I think that's just unfortunate.
Yeah.
It's Montgomery, so my money would be on it happened.
And again, maybe I'm a fool not to like be constantly, with my head on a swivel, going about the places I go in this town. But I have gotten to the point where I don't go to certain areas. Just, I'm not saying the odds are high. I'm just saying I don't even want to play those small odds.
If you don't have any business over there, why? I mean, come on.
And it's like, man, got to get it together.
I remember
got to get it together.
Years ago when we had a lot more police officers. A buddy of mine when I had some rental property in the hood. Whew, it was really in the hood.
Mm-hmm.
But we were riding around. We were getting ready to, I think, put a refrigerator or something in the house. We were waiting for the lady to come home. And the cop pulled us over. And this was many, many years ago. And he said, are you boys down here looking to score? We're like, what are you talking about? And we're in our mid-20s. Like, what are you talking about? He's like, I know what y'all are doing. Y'all trying to get some of that cocaine, some crack.
Oh, man.
And my buddy quickly goes, dude, look at us. We got to be the fattest crackheads you ever seen before in your life. That dude went from serious to just grinning. All right, man, you got to be careful down here. Y'all be careful down here.
Yeah, score. What are you talking about?
Yeah, we literally like, what are you talking about? It's like, I'm looking to get some crack or cocaine. And then my buddy Sonny just busted out. Man, look at us. Come on.
You got any weed? Fat boys like some marijuana.
It was so funny because he went from so dead serious and then just busted. He couldn't even hold it in. He's like, all right, y'all be careful.
And I do wonder at this point, like how many incidents like that happen that just don't go reported.
A lot. I hear it a lot.
Like people don't even call 911.
I hear it a lot.
Because I mean, some folks would be like, like say something. It's not like assault. It's not murder, obviously. But it's a property crime. Somebody steals something, like steals your washing machine or something, or steals something out of the shed, or steals something out of your business, like garage. Like, I mean, all these sorts of things.
Yeah, it happens, dude.
I mean, and if you call them up, most of the time it's going to be like, well, do you expect to get your stuff back?
No. And that's the sad thing. You don't even expect that anymore. Right now, most people are just happy if a cop comes out to do a report.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, as sad as that is, you're just looking for somebody to say, hey, we acknowledge the fact this happened to you. We're sorry.
10 years ago, it was, how long is it going to take them to get here?
Yeah.
And to your point, now it's why even bother?
And that's a lot of people. I hate saying it, but it's a lot of people's attitude, even on my stuff. Unless there's got to be an insurance claim or something involved, just go, learn our lesson.
Well, they know nothing's going to happen.
Right. Well, there's no consequences anyway. I'm not going to get my stuff back. If you go bust the guy, that's, I'm going to see him again in 5 minutes. You know, it's frustrating, but what do? You just go somewhere else where that doesn't happen.
Well, and again, what they've done the pay raise, they've done the incentive packages. Like, what more needs to be done?
Keep them in jail.
Yeah,
there's your problem.
Well, and some of this is double down on the whole task force you created.
I'm down with that.
And I think this legislative session, they did it. Say, here's more resources. Not only do this in Montgomery, but Birmingham and elsewhere where there are problems in the state. So I'd say double down on that. That seems to have did make a change.
Mm-hmm.
But stop wasting money on stuff that doesn't work. Like, seriously, like, stop it.
Well, one of the things that, and you probably saw the news, there was a shooting in Gibbs Village again. I think it was last week.
Yeah.
No surprise. But one of the depressing parts of that article said, we've done all kinds of Gibbs Village cleanups. We've done all kinds of cops, doing the open day there or whatever. At what point do you realize that doesn't work? Yeah. I mean, before I ever got in serious trouble, my dad tried to reason with me. And eventually I found the belt. That did a lot more reasoning with me in a hurry.
For the life of me, I don't understand why we can't come up with more creative solutions, especially if it's a juvenile. Like, you did this again. You did this like 3 times. All right. You're going to essentially a boot camp. It's not a prison where it's more like, no, this is a boot camp. We're going to set you straight. We're going to educate you. I mean, but you can't be here anymore because you keep doing this.
Right. You can't be around civilized people because you cannot act civilized. That's how it is. Sorry, but that's how
I think that's the worst part is the young kids. Like, you can just throw them in prison for the rest of their life.
But I'm like you with that. No, you can't. When I grew up, we had alternative school. When you got kicked out of regular school, they were not going to turn their backs on you. You went to a regular or alternative school. And then when you were too rough for that, they had one more step program for you before they locked you up. But again, if I just know you're going to make me sit in class and I don't have to do anything, this is keeping me from, getting any real accountability. I'll do that for a while till I get bored.
Yeah. Just a shame. And I think also it's a leadership thing. The mayor
big time
needs to convince the police community here locally that he has their back. I don't know exactly what that requires, but that's what he needs to do. Because I think that's what's happening. Is people look at Montgomery, they go, good cost of living. If I become an officer there, they're going to help me, give me an amazing deal to own a home in the city I'm protecting. I'm going to get a heck of a pay, especially when you look at the low cost of living.
Sure.
Like, this is really worth it. And then you call up, say, local law enforcement and say contacts in the area. And they tell you the history of what's happened in the last, say, several years. And a lot of folks say, well, leadership doesn't have your back if you happen to screw up.
And that hasn't changed.
So we'll see. And at a certain point, it can't be me or Greg or David Thrasher writing these emails. Or I hat tip to Jason Davenport. I think he had a great write-up the other day at 1819
Yes,
News.
he did.
At a certain point, it's got to be the folks that we elect to the council. And you got to wonder, where are y'all? If you really disagree with where we're going, where are y'all?
Rubber stamping.
You have an open seat here anytime you want to air those complaints. But honestly, it doesn't have to be on the show. It needs to be in a council meeting. Those are filmed. Those are recorded. Where are y'all? Now they might come back and say we don't have the votes. Something's got to give.
Yep.
And I mean, that is a very strange thing occurred there with that chamber coffee get together.
It's
coincidental to a fault, I suppose.
Yeah, but it's going to take, and I hate saying it, but it's going to take it's going to take an event. It's not, I don't see just naturally happening where this gets taken care of.
Well,
It's
and we
going
have
to take
so
an event where
many
everybody says, "I've had
skilled
enough."
people in business here in this area.
But they're
They got plenty of people ready to invest, ready to do stuff. And then stuff like this happens.
I talk to them all the time, especially wanting to come in and redo a lot of these houses.
Yes.
The crime is so bad, or, hey, I want to bring my family. And I get the call back, hey, I think we're going to go somewhere else. We're going to try a little bit north of there. Yeah.
It's just a crying shame. It really is.
It really is, because we're here all the time. We see the potential, not just the state has, but the city has. And I just do not see anyone take advantage of it. There's so many things they could be doing. And we
You notice a lot of the
direction.
big investments all around the city limit.
Yes. That new bank, or not new bank, the bank that's moving out to Pike Road. Guess they didn't get their $4 million like other companies did.
We've had that argument. And by the way, if you're out there listening, Eddie's pissed at Alpha. Eddie thinks Alpha sucks. Eddie thinks Alpha should go and shove it if they're going to play hardball. The point I've been making is, unless you're, we were talking about this today, unless you're Blue Cross Blue Shield or Alabama Power, good luck fighting Alpha in this state.
Good. Now, yeah, true. But now one business has moved to Pike Road. So if I'm the next business that's thinking about moving out of the city limits, I go to them and go, hey, where's my cut? I'm going to go just like this one, because eventually, after third, fourth, fifth one, they're going to go, all right, we're going to have to start paying people to stay here.
That's why you don't negotiate with terrorists, man.
Well, you don't set that precedent.
And by the way, is the Whitewater Park making money yet? Made any money?
It's sure fun.
Do you mean today
it's
or
fun?
just in general?
It is fun?
I don't know.
Well, I do like fun.
It's fun. I went twice.
Right.
But it was like going to the fair.
I'm all for fun. I was on that last week when the big tranny fight broke out on Ann Street, allegedly. We're not sure if it's actually trannies. But that's fun. I mean, I don't want people fighting in front of gas stations, but it's fun.
It happens on Ann Street.
You can't turn a profit on that, though. City can't turn a profit on it.
Well, they need to set up a YouTube account.
Yeah.
That's what they need to do. YouTube account, City of Montgomery Fights. Have the city run that account. You can bring in all sorts of ad revenue off Google Ads share or whatever.
Yeah.
Throw it up on X. Have some fun with that.
There's opportunity.
Circus.
Hey, you remember that story you did on the sperm races too?
Yeah.
Did you see
No, I didn't watch it. Because when I watched the preview, I'm like, that's the gayest thing I've seen in a long time.
There's a fight at the end over the winner. The winners got into a fight.
They got into a fight?
Yeah.
Oh,
I'll tell you off air.
And then they like pinned each other to the ground and held each other down.
Two nerds, as you expected, but
I'm just going to guess that you're talking about the boys swimming,
yeah,
and not the whales.
Yeah, the boys swimming, and they had it under a microscope, and it was you could bet on it, I guess. But,
yeah, they had two sperm samples and had
they had
them,
more
like
than
raise.
They had brackets, and then you come down.
Yeah,
to the
and it was
final
it was almost like a microchip track. 4,000 people watching live. And it was to bring attention to male infertility, and I'm like, this just seems a little.
What it brought attention to is the gambling industry going, hey, we got a new thing here. We got a new thing here.
Man, I wonder what the training regimen is to be an athlete.
They went through it all. They had a whole for like 6 weeks, 8 weeks, the whole regimen of food and everything.
I eat a lot of mango.
Some people do spinach.
Spinach, huh?
Yeah.
Asparagus?
Makes you smell funny.
Well, but
I don't know.
Does it up your game? Does it give you more of that mobility?
Well, here's my thing. If it's like horse racing, okay, you go look at the horse before you bet.
Yeah.
Right. So let's say there's 3 guys in this race. One of them's 60, one of them's 40, and one of them's 18.
Wait, how do you look at the horse?
Well, you just go view him. You go check him out.
What are we looking at?
Is he an older horse? Is he?
So you're going over to the stables, but again, we're not talking about horses here. But with horses, you're going to look at the stable.
I'm going to look at the horse.
Do you go inside the barn?
If I don't have to, I don't. I hope they have things out so I can see it. But again, if there's if there's a horse that's 60, one that's 40, and one that's 18, my money's going on the 18-year-old. He's going to be the fastest. Am I wrong here? Am I missing something?
I'm actually just going to see who's got the most little ponies around them. That's what I'm putting my money on.
Well, so you're going on volume. I see.
Yeah, he's got the whole brood.
I'm going on proven results.
All right. Anyway, let's hit this top of the hour break.
Broadcasting from the Riverside Chevrolet Master Control Center, this is WACV Cusana, News Talk 93.1 FM. When it's Chevy, it's Riverside.
With SRN News, I'm John Scott. Slow-moving thunderstorms across parts of Oklahoma and Texas are flooding roads and forcing evacuations. At least 2 people have died. To the east, residents in Pennsylvania and Ohio are picking up from a powerful storm that left more than 500,000 customers in the dark. Officials there are reporting at least 3 deaths after the storm system downed trees and power lines. In health news, North America's 3 biggest measles outbreaks have grown to a total of more than 2,500 known cases. 3 people have died in the U.S. and 1 in Mexico. Mexican and U.S. officials say the strains of measles spreading in Canada match the other large outbreaks. On Wall Street, stocks have been higher, the Dow adding 248 points. The NASDAQ Composite up 354. This is SRN News.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
They told us nothing but lies.
These timeshare thieves out there are terrible.
They bullied us.
Our timeshare is all a scam.
They stole from us. They were thieves.
I was completely taken advantage of.
Hello, I'm Chuck McDowell, founder and CEO of Wesley Financial Group, and I know the tough spot you're in. Are you asking yourself, why did I buy that timeshare? I'll tell you why, because that presentation wasn't a normal sales pitch. It was a show to convince you that timeshare is a great investment. They told you it was available today and today only. They said you're foolish if you don't buy. And unfortunately, you believed them. We get over 3,000 complaints a week from folks just like you that were misled into buying a timeshare. Give us a call. I guarantee if we take you as a client, we will cancel your timeshare or you'll pay nothing.
Call now for your free information kit. 800-989-1771. 800-989-1771. 800-989-1771.
Rich Thomas Weather is brought to you by MPM Feed and Seed. It's time to get those gardens ready. From seeds to plants to fertilizer, MPM has what you need. Shop MPM Feed and Seed in Prattville, 1313 Highway 31 North. Open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, Saturdays, 8 to 1.
Rich Thomas Weather. We've been talking about some weather changes as a cold front approaches the state. Today, though, relatively routine. Another very warm day on this first day of May with a high in the upper 80s and maybe some spotty, widely scattered afternoon showers, maybe a thunderstorm. Then tonight, scattered showers and thunderstorms. Mild, overnight low temperature 65. The showers and storms will be in greater numbers on Friday night, and then again on Saturday afternoon as a front enters the state and then stalls. Friday's high 84 will be up to around 80 on Saturday and Sunday, and noticeably cooler by Sunday night. Jacket weather again with the overnight low temperature in the mid-50s. From the Blue Water Weather Center, this is Rich Thomas.
At CB&S Bank, we've been meeting the needs of our customers since 1906. Need help setting up new business goals? Our line of commercial loans can help you achieve them. Go to cbsbank.com to find a location near you. All loans subject to credit approval, member FDIC, and equal housing lender.
From the Blue Water Broadcasting News Center, these are today's top stories. Montgomery police are investigating a gunshot at a youth baseball game Tuesday night. Just before 7 p.m., a gun was fired during a fight between two adults behind Goodwin Middle School at the East Montgomery baseball field. The game was canceled after the shot was fired. No injuries were reported and no arrests have been made. Prattville police have arrested 8 people in a child sex sting operation. Undercover officers posed as children under the age of 16 and chatted with multiple adults who agreed to meet and exchange money for sexual acts. One of the suspects, Owen Strenzik, was later identified as a middle school teacher from Wisconsin. 2 Montgomery men are facing charges in connection to the largest seizure of machine gun conversion devices ever recorded in Alabama's Middle District. The charges stem from an incident on April 3rd during which Marco LeVar Edwards and Elliot Arowana Turner were caught leaving a residence in Montgomery with 53 of the illegal devices. From the Blue Water Broadcasting News Center, I'm Sky Mosley.
This hour of news and views is brought to you by our good friends at Alabama Home Mortgage. Alabama Home Mortgage, 567-4223. Visit them on the web at myalabamahomemortgage.com. NMLS number 1586368, an equal housing lender.
Hey, Biscuits fans, it's the voice of the Biscuits, Jack Sadiq, and remind you to come out to Riverwalk Stadium for one of our T-shirt giveaways on Thursday nights. We've got great Gatsby T-shirts, retro T-shirts, college T-shirts, Hawaiian T-shirts, all kinds of T-shirts to give out. Don't miss your chance for one of our exclusive T-shirt giveaways. For more information on specific shirt giveaways, visit biscuitsbaseball.com or call the box office at 323-BALL.
Hey, this is Lyle from Margaret's Exquisite Jewelry, and I do my radio advertising on Blue Water. I'll tell you what, I use most of the stations, and I've been using it for so long. It's hard to tell with the money you spend on advertising if it does any good. When they come in and say, I heard you on the radio, I know it's Blue Water, and I love Blue Water.
Radio works. It's as simple as that. Call us to find out how radio can work for your business. Blue Water Broadcasting. Local folks helping local business.
Hi, this is Bo Goodson from the Goodson Group with your Real Estate Minute. You're thinking of selling your home. Here are several ways to improve the look of your home and possibly the value. Number 1, improve the curb appeal with trim bushes and cut the grass. Repaint the exterior where needed, and if needed, paint your front door. Number 2, declutter the inside of the home by removing items that are not needed off countertops, dressers, and the den. 3, paint walls and trim where needed with a fresh coat of paint in a light color that will show off your home. 4, clean your oven and microwave inside and out, make it shine. Number 5, professionally clean carpets or shine the wood floors with a polish or bona. 6, clean out all closets or unwanted clothes, shoes, belts, hats, and donate them to a local charity. Finish any leftover repairs now, doorknobs, light bulbs, and closet doors. For a complete list and an in-person evaluation and consultation, call Bo Goodson from the Goodson Group, 221-2883 or 551-0225.
The views and opinions of the following program are solely those of the host and other contributors. These do not necessarily represent those of Liberty Acquisitions 825, Blue Water Broadcasting, its management, staff, or any advertisers. It's time for Montgomery's conversational radio show. It's news and views on News Talk 93.1 FM. To join the conversation, call 272-9228.
Joey Clark.
Welcome back to News and Views in the afternoon. Always, we call the show online Joey Clark Live. You can always watch on X at the Joey Clark or on YouTube, Joey Clark Live. Eddie Bader and Byron Sheehy here in the studio with me. And there's a big hit piece out being pumped by Douglas Murray, that big old neocon, the Brit. You know, you write about Lord Alfred Douglas. You write about Bosie as your big hit. You become an international star. If you all don't know who Bosie is, it was Oscar Wilde's gay lover that led to Wilde being thrown in prison because Bosie's dad was some royalty or nobility or something. Anyway,
I did not know that.
You write a book on all that, and the green carnation is like a symbol of it's not natural. But if you do put a carnation in, it's like some green dye, it will turn green.
Still not.
It was a sign of their love, apparently.
Oh,
anyway,
okay.
You write a book. That's how you make a name for yourself. And then, down the road, you fancy yourself like Christopher Hitchens, and you then start stumping for all these wars. After you argue on the atheist trail for a while, you start stumping for all these wars. And what's amazing is these nations, whether it's Ukraine or Israel or all sorts of places, will invite you to report on their wars. Now, don't we remember this? After Vietnam, all that negative press came back.
Yep.
The U.S. government still invites journalists, right? But it's very controlled, ain't it? I wonder how controlled it is in Ukraine and, say, the current theater right now between Israel and Gaza.
Pretty good question on all fronts.
Yeah. It's interesting. But anyway, Douglas Murray has a piece out that is just a straight up hit piece against Trump's top envoy who's trying to make these peace deals, Steve Witkoff. Apparently, hawks in the administration could try to block a deal internally by framing it as humiliating and or embarrassing to Trump personally. And the folks that are being quoted in this are from the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. It's the leading anti-Witkoff operation. They're openly calling for people in the administration to undermine President Trump and stop a deal with Iran. These anti-Witkoff forces are indeed anti-MAGA. As CNN and the corporate press props up the mustache, John Bolton. And it just drives me nuts. It's like we didn't vote for Bush 3.0. Damn it. We voted for at least an attempt at peace. And if anybody ever tries to put themselves out there to make peace, well, you get all these folks that want their forever wars back, and they will smear you. They will say everything they need to say to go after you. So far, I've been impressed with Witkoff. We might actually get something done.
Yeah.
say, front of Ukraine and Russia, there was a major signing of the, say, economic deal between the United States and Ukraine. Pretty good stuff.
That they put pen to ink.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually in place. Here's a little bit. I've got Scott Bessent here talking about this with Maria Bartiromo, if that's how you say her name. And Bessett's going to lay out, well, what's kind of the principles of this thing? Why is this so important for a potential peace deal between Russia and Ukraine? Let's listen in together.
And I have two words for the President Trump's agenda: peace and prosperity. And this moves both America and Ukraine in that direction. The deal was something that President Trump conceived back in February. He dispatched me to Kyiv to present it to President Zelensky. So we've been working on this. This was first presented to Ukrainians on February 10th. We signed yesterday. As you know, there was a bit of turbulence in between, but I think that this is win-win for both sides, and it's very innovative. The easy thing to do would have been to give the Ukrainians more loans, pile on more debt, tax the American people more, and lose the support of the American people. Here, that the Ukrainians can see a path to economic prosperity once this conflict ends, and the U.S. businesses, U.S. best practices, U.S. capital will be part of that.
Makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, am I off base here? Did we not vote for peace?
Yes, we did. But when do we ever get what we voted for, Joey?
In particular on foreign policy. In particular. And that's what's so frustrating, is they constantly, especially the war hawks, are constantly saying, we are in defense of democracy. And when it comes to the actual voice of the people in this country, time and time again, especially the veterans of war from Iraq and Afghanistan, that generation. Yeah. Well, that doesn't matter. The people will give the people their opinions. We'll be able to do what I've been calling it for years: foreign policy by media freakout. We'll take what's a long, complex story and we'll just reduce it down to good guy, bad guy. And if you have any nuance, you're a traitor.
Yep.
You're some commie pinko. It's nonsense. You want to derail the Trump administration and the America First agenda? Go to war with Iran. You want to derail it? Continue to let this war in Eastern Europe fester.
I'm afraid that they have some misguided concept or belief that because the economy is not as strong right now, that we have to go to war that much more quickly. Like, it's scary, man. It really is.
Yeah, the Murray piece, he's quoting people calling Witkoff a bumbling effing idiot.
Oh.
Shouldn't be leading Iran-Russia negotiations, allies and insiders say. I love this. Murray also putting out a piece: Steve Witkoff is fumbling foreign talks and dragging Trump down. When actually Steve Witkoff is championing the president's agenda, which is the agenda, again, we voted for in this country. At least give it a frickin' chance, man. And I'm so tired of the claims to expertise, like the experts, the insiders, the folks who have been working on this for years. Yeah, y'all been working on this for years and you suck. You spend billions and billions and billions of dollars. When's the last time we actually won a war? When's the last time it's even made sense? Anyway, I'll get off my soapbox here. But it's incredibly ridiculous. Of course, there's going to be plenty of signals from the administration pressuring Iran. But there are a lot of folks, say most prominently in commentary, like Ben Shapiro, thinks, oh, this is a terrible idea. You should just go ahead and bomb them.
And then what, man?
I know. And then what? You sent me a video. It's a recent TED Talk of one of the entrepreneurs in the new defense space. Also,
Lucky, I believe is his last name.
And then you look at also, say, Palantir and what they're doing for defense capabilities. Look at what's happened in Russia, Ukraine. It's why this needs to end. Because it's carnage, especially when you start bringing in to bear the low-cost new technology, in particular the drones.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. You want to see a crazy war in the Middle East that really nobody wins, that just creates more destruction, more mayhem? And what's one of the key economic aspects of the America First agenda? Low oil prices.
Yep.
You go blow up Iran's nuclear facilities if, in fact, you can blow them all up. You got them all? You sure? Now, my point of view is Iran, isn't great. I think they're the only peaceful nuclear program in the world that enriches their own uranium.
Who is this?
Iran.
Oh,
they enrich, but it's for peaceful means.
Right,
it's
peaceful needs only.
But
Peaceful
there are a lot of
purposes.
other peaceful nuclear programs that they just import enriched uranium from already nuclear powers. Yeah, because, they got it.
Right.
And it's not like you need to spin up a whole means of putting this together. So, yes, pressure, I think, needs to be put on them. I'm not saying you go full Ron Paul as much as my heart is there. I'm saying at least try some realism. This march of shoot first, ask questions later, and we'll kind of see, we'll figure it out along the way. Again, if you want to destroy the America First agenda, go do that.
And then they act like, well, we didn't know this was going to happen. How could we have known? Just don't. All the unintended consequences, like you're pointing out, just let the man do his job. Let him try to get the economy back
and especially from the same people who sold all the wars of choice.
Yep.
When are people who were profoundly, tragically wrong to the cost of blood and treasure remade the map? You want to talk about the migrant crisis in Europe? You think the wars all over there had something to do with it? Millions displaced.
Yep.
Hundreds of thousands dead. Thousands of Americans dead. And money down a rat hole like crazy. If you ever have the time, just, brew yourself a big cup of tea or whatever. Maybe get yourself a Natty Light in Eddie's case. Put your feet up, look out off the dock over Lake Jordan, and read yourself the Inspector General report on Afghanistan, or at least a summary of it.
Going to get angry.
See where all that money went.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, before Biden pulls out, Mark Milley's talking about, well, we have a 500,000 man strong army that we've trained up there.
Yeah.
And they fold like a cheap frickin' suit in days. Because, number one, most of that 500,000 didn't exist.
Right. They're on the payroll.
My heart breaks for the guys who were really trained up by special forces, who really were some great guys working with Americans in Afghanistan. But that was a very small unit compared to the graft that was going on. And then out of Iraq, what do you get? It becomes Iran's proxy.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Absolutely insane. And I think this problem can be solved without some massive kinetic clash, if you want to use those words. It can be solved by realist foreign policy.
Well, I don't think that the clash is going to solve it. I think that's the important part.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see. The good news is Trump is still the one in charge.
Yep.
And as much as he will make very scary noises, don't get me wrong, he will threaten all sorts of people. You saw, for instance, think back to the first term with Kim Jong-un.
Mm-hmm.
He literally does an allusion to Truman. You'll see fire and fury like never before seen. Which is an allusion, of course, to the nukes. And then what comes out of it? It's like a scene from The Office. Could you make me and Kim look skinny here in this photo? Trolling the guy. So, yeah, Trump's got some method to his madness, in my humble opinion. But what drives me nuts are those with these outsized voices who don't even like trying to follow through on diplomacy. And it's not like Trump doesn't have Israel's back. Give me a break. But the idea in the administration is put pressure on Iran, put pressure, and bring more of the Arab nations into the Abraham Accords. Generally the idea. And maybe it'll go belly up, but at least give it a chance. It's awful. Absolutely awful. But we'll see. We'll see. I'm definitely going to have to bring this up with Jeff Deist at 2 o'clock. Looking forward to having Jeff Deist, former chief of staff to Ron Paul, president of the Mises Institute for a while. And, I couldn't make the moral arguments against war, but I've been more in the mood the last few years of just look at this realistically. War does make monsters out of men. Sometimes you got to be a monster. Anybody who says, well, no, you could okay, then you're going to suffer monsters. And that's a choice. You can make that choice. In fact, some of the most renowned people who have ever walked this earth made that choice to suffer the worst from monsters. And they were made much more famous than those monsters ever would turn out to be. Fair enough. But if you're in a tragic fallen world, you have to make tough choices. But to say we have to become a monster before anybody else, the first move is always more and more mass violence. That you're playing with a different game.
And it seems like we do it from righteousness.
Yes.
That's where we try to come at it from.
Well, and you do it out of necessity. It's the old Thomas Paine thing, government is a necessary evil. And what's amazing is since old Tom Paine wrote all that stuff, and he was one of the more weird founders. It's interesting. Do we even know where his grave is anymore? It's interesting how he fell out of favor after being like the poet of the revolution, the voice, the pamphleteer of the revolution. But necessary evil. It's been amazing since those words were written, how much we keep expanding the definition of necessary, of what is necessary. And it excuses evil after evil after evil. And you're right. It's wrapped up in all this moral preening that like you're going to fight the Crusades against the Muslim hordes. Give me a break.
Not pushing an agenda, right? No.
272-9228. Hey, this part of the program brought to you by Montgomery Men's Health. And they're at Montgomery Men's Health. They're ready to help you fellas out. Especially if you're not feeling yourself. Like you really are seeing unwanted weight gain. It's not like I'm eating more. You're seeing loss of muscle mass and you've been trying to work out. You get no gains, brother. It's no fun. Maybe you're just never in the mood. You have no drive, including no sex drive to speak of.
That ain't no good.
You're fall asleep like right after lunch. Like all I ate was a cheeseburger. And it's like, man, I got to take a nap now.
Yeah.
Is there horse tranquilizer in that cheeseburger?
Exactly.
It could be you try to go to bed early and you wake up after laying in bed for 8 hours and you're still exhausted. Your sleep patterns are all messed up. Well, all of these together could be pointing towards a big problem with low testosterone. And they're at Montgomery Men's Health. They can do a testosterone-focused lab workup plus a consultation for only $99. And if you do, in fact, have low testosterone, they have treatments there at Montgomery Men's Health that can truly change men's lives. In fact, they have treatments there. If you choose that option, they can make you feel better the very same day you go see them. It's just incredible. But after treatment, depending on, there's all sorts of options for you. Men can experience higher energy, better gains in the gym. Brother. Better mental clarity, improved sleep patterns, a faster metabolism. You usually even notice an increased libido, and you can actually book the same day that you call. That number, 440-3663. That's 440-3663. Or you can always go to MontgomeryMen'sHealth.com to book your appointment today.
He may not know whether he's coming or going, but whether you're going to work or coming home, Greg Budell is there. Mornings, 6 till 9, and afternoons, 3 till 6. Only on News Talk 93.1 FM, WACV.
This is your roving reporter, and today I am talking with an elk. Hey man, Mr. Elk, I was just wondering, what do elk do to take care of their money? Well, like most smart folks, we call David Erdis. You mean Alabama's most favorite asset preservationist? That's him, man. We call him up at 334-279-7431 or 205-479-0839. I see. Yes, he is our preferred money man. The money man with the money plan. You've been paying attention. Well, could you give us those numbers one more time? 334-279-7431 or 205-479-0839. And I just want to try to give you a heads up, man. Oh, what's that? I'm not an elk. Not an elk, huh? Well, then, pray tell, what are you? Knights of Columbus. I am not even going to make a comment. Well, the baby liked it.
Are you tired of the mainstream media's biased reporting? Do you want to stay informed on the news that really matters to you? Look no further than 1819 News. At 1819 News, we bring you the latest in Alabama news, politics, sports, culture, and more. We've assembled a team of journalists with Alabama values dedicated to the truth and the truth alone. Visit us at 1819news.com today. That's 1819news.com. Subscribe to our newsletter. Honest News, Alabama Values. This hour of news and views is brought to you by our good friends at Alabama Home Mortgage. Alabama Home Mortgage, 567-4223. Visit them on the web at myalabamahomemortgage.com. NMLS number 1586368. An equal housing lender.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, let's talk ED because millions of men experience it, but not everyone can access or afford treatments like Viagra. Well, HIMS can help. Through HIMS.com, you can get a full range of treatment options for ED, including daily or as-needed meds through a 100% online process. It all starts with an online intake form. Get started at hims.com/radio, and from there, a medical provider licensed in your state will determine if ED treatment is right for you. If prescribed, your medication is shipped to you for free. Find the ED treatment that fits your needs with options up to 95% less than the brand names. Millions of men experience ED, but HIMS can help. To start your free online visit and save up to 95%, go to hims.com/radio. That's hims.com/radio for your free online visit. HIMS.com/RADIO.
Hi, I'm Cheryl Woodward, account executive with Blue Water Broadcasting. Why should you advertise with us? Radio is an active medium. It can create immediacy, driving shoppers to a specific store, brand, or to take a specific action. Radio ads engage with the audience in a personal and unique way. Contact me, Cheryl Woodward, by going to bluewaterbroadcasting.com to find out more. Blue Water Broadcasting, local folks helping local business.
Rich Thomas Weather, a service of Wiley Sanders Truck Lines, where over-the-road dump truck drivers are needed right now. Home twice a week and every weekend, must leave early on Sunday with Blue Cross Blue Shield. Call them now at 855-777-9785.
Rich Thomas Weather.
We've been talking about some weather changes as a cold front approaches the state. Today, though, relatively routine. Another very warm day on this first day of May with a high in the upper 80s and maybe some spotty, widely scattered afternoon showers, maybe a thunderstorm. Then tonight, scattered showers and thunderstorms. Mild, overnight low temperature 65. The showers and storms will be in greater numbers on Friday night, and then again on Saturday afternoon as a front enters the state and then stalls. Friday's high 84 will be up to around 80 on Saturday and Sunday, and noticeably cooler by Sunday night. Jacket weather again with the overnight low temperature in the mid-50s. From the Blue Water Weather Center, this is Rich Thomas.
All the headlines the mainstream media won't touch. Your News Talk station. News Talk 93.1 FM WACV.
Joey Clark.
Welcome back. We have some breaking news, gentlemen. Donald Trump just putting out this message.
Dun, 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 dun.
Hard to keep track of stuff. He says, because early in the day, Mike Waltz was fired, right, as national security advisor.
Yes.
As was his deputy, Alex Wong, I believe.
Walked out.
And a lot of folks early on were like, Wong is the guy who really screwed the pooch when it came to this whole Signalgate thing. That said, here's the new Trump message just put out. I am pleased to announce that I will be nominating Mike Waltz to be the next United States ambassador to the United Nations. From his time in uniform on the battlefield in Congress and as my national security advisor, Mike Waltz has worked hard to put our nation's interests first. I know he will do the same in his new role.
In the interim, Secretary of State Marco Rubio will serve as National Security Advisor while continuing his strong leadership at the State Department. That is fascinating. Together, we will continue to fight tirelessly to make America and the world safe again. Thank you for your attention to this matter. It's directly from President Trump. So you take Waltz out at National Security Advisor, you put him over at the United Nations, because initially they wanted Elise Stefanik, but the majority is so thin in the House of Representatives for the Republicans, like they can't take Elise Stefanik out right now. We got to get that one big, beautiful bill done. So it's been in sort of limbo bimbo of like, who's going to be your UN ambassador? So you take Waltz out of National Security Advisor and you nominate him to be your UN guy. And then you just make the Secretary of State, who's been the point guy on a lot of these negotiations, your acting National Security Advisor. I find that fascinating. And in a way, it's a big hat tip to diplomacy.
Mm-hmm.
A big hat tip to diplomacy. And Rubio apparently has done a very good job helping to restructure the State Department. A lot of that USAID stuff, for instance, that Doge found, Rubio's been cleaning a lot of that up.
Oh,
he was
is that
put in
right?
charge of that, yes, and cleaned up a lot of that. So I think it's interesting that putting Rubio there in that National Security Advisor position could signal I'm serious about diplomacy. And don't try me, because I am crazy enough to also drop the bombs. And that's the thing. And it's what I would say to my hardcore, say, libertarian anti-war friends is Trump does get it both ways. And he doesn't even need to send Lindsey Graham out there to make, I'm going to hiss at them. I'm going to hiss at the Iranians. And so they're scared. No, Trump, do you believe Trump would drop bombs on Iran?
Yep.
Yeah.
I think
It's a credible threat.
Yeah.
But does he want to really? Then
I don't know. So, no.
But he would do it. And so he kind of gets the best of both worlds with the carrot and the stick. We'll see. That's a fascinating shift there, putting Rubio as National Security Advisor. Let's go to line 3 and talk to Jimmy. Hey, Jimmy. Jimmy.
Hey, this is James.
Oh, James. I'm James.
Hey, James. How you doing?
No, I'm good. Hey, just wanted to comment on the Alpha situation y'all were talking about earlier.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you think about the president of Alpha, Jimmy Parnell. You know, he runs a multi-million-dollar timber operation, or is in charge of it. You know, and I think he had the advantage over the mayor and the commissioners over the county, and you know, a little bit smarter than the people he was dealing with, so he knew how to leverage them to get what he needed from them. And make no mistake that they're a big political power in the state.
Oh yeah.
And I'm sure the governor may have had something to do with some of those incentives being passed on to them also. But don't forget, or shall I remind everyone, several years ago when Todd Strange was mayor, you know, there was talk of Stivers moving off the Southern Bypass down there because of the crime and the theft. And all of a sudden, you know, they didn't move. I'm sure they got some incentives to stay on that side of town also. You know, and I have another thing too about with the passing of the gas tax there in Montgomery. I also remember back years ago, Mark Montiel had Todd Strange on the radio, and they were talking about paving. And he said no matter how much money came in to the budget, they were going to only allocate $3 million a year to paving streets in Montgomery. And I do recall the current mayor, making the statement that there would only be $3 million a year going toward, or they needed to raise gas tax because it would take $3 million a year to pave streets in Montgomery. So, you know, I lived in Montgomery for several years. My wife grew up there. You know, we got broken into twice within about an 18-month period. So about 3 years ago, we decided to get out of there.
Yep.
And because we knew nothing was going to change. And so, you know, there's a lot of potential. I agree. There's a lot of potential in the city. A lot of things that could be great. But as long as you've got that liberal-minded leadership in place, you not going to happen. I don't believe so.
Well,
So that's my thoughts.
Great thoughts. Very wise call. And if you don't mind me asking, what kind of area were you living in Montgomery here when those things happened?
I actually lived in Forest Hills.
Yep.
My wife grew up in Montgomery. She actually bought the house in 2003, and we married about 12 years ago, and we lived there for the first 10 years we were married. And in our mid 40s, man, we worked hard, paid the house off, had no debt. I've got a little small contractor business, and she works for a company in town. So we were in a good spot where we wanted to be, and but when you're getting broken into, and it's not a good feeling, not a good feeling at all.
Not at all.
Yeah, and I was before I moved to where I'm at now. I was there at Forest Hills about 2.5 years, and I noticed I never got broken into direct in my place, but I noticed a lot of activity. I'll put it that way.
Yep.
Well, there wasn't a night that went by that, he was constantly hearing gunshots.
Yep.
You wake up in the middle of the night, you could hear them in the distance.
Yep.
I called them a Montgomery lullaby. Mm-hmm.
Well, that's it. I think Lakeview Heights, there's a lot of activity going on over there.
Yes, sir.
As a matter of fact, the person that broke into our house actually lived in that neighborhood, and the reason we know, we had some, electronics stolen, old cell phones, and we had an iPad stolen, and my wife was able to ping that thing on her cell phone. And, so we got the exact location of where it was at. Funny thing, her brother was a police officer in the department there in Montgomery before he retired. Sent him the information, and he's like, basically nothing we can do about it. We can go knock on the door and ask them if they've got stolen iPads, stolen merchandise, and all you got to say is yes or no, and just kind of a lost cause. But but it is what it is. Moved back up to the Elmore County area. Very happy up here. So hey,
well, worked out.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah.
But
so.
Well, I appreciate the call, man.
Thank you, James.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Appreciate listening to you guys.
Have a good one, buddy.
Thank you.
Well, and I might have told this before when I moved in Forest Hills there, and you've been in that house. I don't know if you ever got to stop by there. Like I'd been living with a roommate, Jonathan, and he helped me move into that place. And because we just used his car last, his car ended up in the driveway. And at that time, I still had that little BMW Z3 Roadster.
Yeah.
I just left it on the street. And I purposely, because when I was living in Capitol Heights, the window was busted like twice. So I just left it unlocked and nothing in there.
Right.
And didn't think about it much because I'm like, well, I'm getting away from Capitol Heights. I'm getting away from Zelda Road and Zelda Point. So Forest Hills seemed like a step up. I go out after just spending the night, first night in the house, seemed fine. I go out to my car the next morning and somebody's rummaged through. Obviously didn't find anything. I don't keep anything in there. And it was like an empty, I don't know if it was a message or somebody screwed up. Sitting on the passenger seat was an empty clip.
Yeah, somebody dropped it.
Yeah. That wasn't a message.
And I'm like, well, to me, it came across as welcome to the neighborhood. Like, damn.
They need that back.
Me, I said, ooh, I got a free clip.
Yeah, I threw it out.
I collect free clips.
Yeah,
Joe, for the record.
I'm not trying to encourage you. You got too many.
Are you my wife now all of a sudden?
You got too many. I don't have to be married to you to know you've got a problem.
No, I have solutions.
You don't even have enough bullets to fill it up.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
Yeah, I do.
No, you don't.
Yeah.
You know how many clips you have? It's kind of like you're a hoarder.
No, most of them are ready
Most
to go.
of them don't work with the firearms you
most
possess.
of my clips are ready to go.
Oh, okay.
I bet he's got the bullets.
No, most of mine are ready to go.
Well, there was a tone shift there, and I'm not trying to push too much. It's like most of mine are ready to go.
No, they're ready to go. Who has empty clips? Somebody obviously not a very good burglar. They didn't get nothing out of your car.
Yeah, well, I don't keep anything in there.
They left you a gift.
You want this little portable center console?
You're so poor. Here, have an empty clip.
No, when in Capitol Heights where that happened, they stole. It was like just because the Z3 didn't have much of a center console, so it was like a portable console with all the little compartments. They swiped that right around the block. It had been thrown into somebody's yard because there's nothing in there.
That's what's heartbreaking.
This is crap.
Like mine's been broken into twice in Cloverdale since I've lived in Montgomery, and you see your stuff or your bag, like, you know,
Yeah, you see it.
15 feet, like,
Yep.
Yeah.
that didn't matter to you. It mattered to me.
Yep.
But yeah, the cop was just like, hey, roll your windows down, leave your doors unlocked, open the glove box so that they can see inside of it that, hey, it's already empty.
Yeah. Well, no, and
I'd rather lay in the back seat, lay in wait.
And then Capitol Heights, it was like 11:30 at night, maybe past midnight. I hear a knock at the door. I'm like, who the hell is this? I'm probably not going to open the door.
Mm-hmm.
I look out and it's like two young girls. I'm like, and so I did crack it, and I kind of looked around before I opened, like out the window, see anybody's around. I'm like, what's up? They're like, is that your car? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, it's all busted up and stuff. And we call the police. I'm like, okay. And the police show up, and the cop was like excited. He goes, blood. We got blood. We can get DNA.
Oh, we're going to crack the case.
I'm like, my God.
Dirty Mike and the boys in the back seat.
At the time, it was Mayor Strange, and I said it before. I'm not the type when I saw that happen, I looked at the sky and go, Todd Strange! Like, it's not like Todd's fault, and it's not directly a lot of the stuff Stephen Reed's fault, but policies and leadership has consequences over time, obviously.
Yes.
What a mess.
But when there are no consequences for doing things like that, too many people are going to do it.
I know.
What's going to happen? What's worse going to happen? You know?
Anyway. 272-9228 if you want to get in on the conversation. That's 334-272-9228. This entire hour brought to you by Alabama Home Mortgage. And there at Alabama Home Mortgage, Kim Williams and Madeline Cannon.
Some of the greatest people I know.
They're ready to help you out, whether you're looking to buy a home or refinance that current home.
That's
that
right.
You own. It could be, say, on a refinance deal, you're looking to bring down just monthly overhead. Maybe you're hitting about retirement age. Maybe you're already in retirement. You're like, I'm feeling the squeeze.
Right.
I don't like this. I want to relax in my retirement. If you have equity built up in your home, they can really do something for you. Recently, we had a listener work with them, saved them $400 a month.
That's right. That's real money too, Joey.
It's very real money.
That's real money.
And of course, if you're looking to buy a home, especially if you're a first-time home buyer, they can walk you through the whole process. It always starts with pre-approval. Don't skip that step. You go out house shopping, like you call Betty here and like, I want to go shop. Like, you got to get pre-approved.
Yep.
Get pre-approved so you know how much home you can actually afford and go for. And Alabama Home Mortgage will walk you every step of the way from pre-approval all the way to closing day. They really are great at serving the wider community and, in particular, veterans. They know the latest in the VA home loan programs. Take advantage of those benefits, or else you're leaving money on the table, veterans. That number to get in touch with Kim and Madeline, they're at Alabama Home Mortgage, 567-4223. That's 567-4223. Or you can always apply online at myalabamahomemortgage.com. There is a difference in mortgage companies. Let Kim and Madeline prove that to you today. NMLS number 1586368. Equal housing lender.
Want to carry News Talk in your pocket? Download the News Talk 93.1 app from the App Store. Available on iPhone and Android. Never miss a moment. Download now.
What's your biggest investment? More than likely, it's your home. So treat it that way when you hire a painting contractor. At PBS Painting, there are no gimmicks, no $99 specials. Just quality painting and someone who treats your home with the same respect that you do. At PBS Painting, we have been painting for years and look forward to many more years to come. With PBS Painting, the job gets prepped properly, whether it's cleaning, scraping, or priming. We always use quality products, which is a must for a quality paint job. So if you're looking for a painter that doesn't need upfront money and is on the job at all times, then please give me a call. Scott Bowers and PBS Painting, 294-5122. That's PBS Painting, 294-5122. Look at some of our work on Facebook at PBS Painting Montgomery.
Your nightly news begins with Fox 20 News at 9.
We start Fox 20 News at 9 with breaking news.
Putting Montgomery news first. Covering your news from all sides. Fox 20 News at 9 is Montgomery's original 9 p.m. news. Live reports from your community. Don't wait till 10. See what's making news tonight and what you can expect tomorrow. If it's happening in the capital city, it's happening on Fox 20 News at 9. Coverage you can count on.
This hour of news and views is brought to you by our good friends at Alabama Home Mortgage. Alabama Home Mortgage, 567-4223. Visit them on the web at myalabamahomemortgage.com. NMLS number 1586368, an equal housing lender.
We get Montgomery talking 24 hours a day. The River Region's most trusted voice. News Talk 93.1 FM WACV.
Joey Clark.
Welcome back. Again, 272-9228 if you want to get in on the conversation. Before we go back to the phones, this part of the program brought to you by Bo Goodson of the Goodson Group. And there at the Goodson Group, Bo and his team are ready to help you whether you're looking to buy or sell here in the River Region real estate market. Bo has been helping buyers and sellers in the Montgomery and surrounding areas for about 50 years now, half a century, which is pretty amazing. A lot of experience under his belt. And at the Goodson Group, not only can they help you with buying and selling your property, they have management services available should you want to rent out your home. And if you have no experience doing that, it's a great service they offer. And of course, the Goodson Group, the crown jewel there is the Bo Goodson Real Estate School, one of the most highly acclaimed and accredited real estate programs here in the state of Alabama. Whether you want to be a more knowledgeable private player or a fully licensed real estate agent, sign up, the Bo Goodson Real Estate School. You can always check out more, learn more at thegoodsongroup.com or give them a call direct at 551-0225. That's 551-0225. Bo Goodson, the Goodson Group, great sponsor here of the program. Let's go to Charlie on line 3. Hey, Charlie.
Yeah, Brad, I just want to share something with you that happened to us about a couple of weeks ago. Talking about the crime and everything. We were in Montgomery out of the Rain Tree Drive, which Eddie may know where that's located. Yep. It's off 231.
Mm-hmm.
While we were getting set up, my guys and all, we were doing a job for a senior citizen out there trying to help a lady. And these guys were coming by in their vehicles, and they were taking pictures of our trailers and our trucks. And we kind of got lucky because a cop did come by and asked us, did we have locks on our trailers? I said, yeah, we've got master locks on our. He said, no, that won't get it. He told us about different kind of locks to put on the trailer while we were in that area, and then they couldn't cut them with bolt cutters to get into the trailers at night. Well, put all that together, and he said you can probably get them at Harbor Freight there in Montgomery. I drive down to Harbor Freight off the bypass. I get out of my truck. I'm walking towards the store. I get hit up by two people, not begging me for money, but telling me they want money. They want money. They want money. I turned around and walked off, got back in my truck, and I drove up to Prattville. And when I got to Prattville, I was talking to the manager at the Prattville Harbor Freight, which I've dealt with a lot. And he told him what I was confronted with. And he said that the Harbor Freight in Montgomery, as far as a ranking goes on the Harbor Freights across the country, and Harbor Freight started in California.
Yep.
It ranked number 4 in the country as far as thefts.
Damn.
Yep. I said, you are kidding me. And he said, no, that's exactly where they rank. And I said, well, it was unbelievable, man. You couldn't even hardly get into the front door without people standing there hitting up on people, you know. Well, I got the locks. I went back to the job. We put the locks on the trailers and everything, got the guys set up. Anyways, the next day, one of my guys comes out of the house while they're working, and there was a guy trying to break into one of our trucks. And when he saw my guy there, he took off running. This is pathetic.
Yep.
I mean, it really is.
It is.
You don't know. I mean, it got to the point where I have to really, when someone contacts us about doing work in Montgomery, I really have to ask where they live in Montgomery.
Yep.
Just because of the risk factor that you have to consider. Man, I don't know. It's just crazy. But what we wound up doing was one of my guys had his son that was out of school come up to the job site, get him a lawn chair, sit in that lawn chair out there by the trucks and the trailers, just to keep people from stopping. But we had guys that would come out either in their cars or walking down the sidewalk, taking pictures of our stuff like they were getting information to maybe break in, you know?
Yep.
All right, man, I'm going to let y'all go. Thanks for your time.
Appreciate sharing.
Thank you, Charlie. Somebody called in with a story a while ago. Business downtown, big business downtown, been there forever. Over the weekend, somebody cut a hole in their roof.
What?
Went into the area where the safe was, cut a hole in that roof, cut a hole in the safe, took off with $60,000. Cash.
Cut a hole in the roof.
Which that's common nowadays. Like you used to think a metal building was.
Sure.
Nah. That's common nowadays. But somebody knew where that safe was to come in that accurately.
And you say cut a hole, like soldering iron cut a hole?
Now, my figure is a grinder wheel or a torch.
I mean, torch.
Yeah.
No, and I saw you nodding when Charlie was talking about master lock on cut it. They just bolt cutters real quick.
Oh, you didn't got to use bolt cutters. You can use 2 open-end wrenches. Yeah, master lock or just a good pry bar. It locks, honestly, and this is sad, and my dad used to tell me this, and I thought he was crazy. Locks are for honest people. That's the truth.
No, that makes a lot of sense to me.
And I used to think, man, that's crazy. It is the absolute truth. Locks are for honest people.
Man. Why we can't have nice things.
Yep.
Seriously. And I think it all goes back to leadership.
100%.
And do we talk about this every day?
Every
we
other
could.
day, seemingly.
Well, we could, though.
Yeah.
Like, I talk about plenty of stuff. We could talk about this every day.
But one of the things we hear is we always know who it is. It's the same X amount of people. And so we say, arrest them all. Well, we can't arrest them all. Why not? Why not?
Right.
Have you tried that? Have you held them in jail longer than 24 hours?
What a mess. Absolute mess. A quick reminder again, a regular guest, I always love having him on.
Yeah.
Jeff Deist, former chief of staff for Ron Paul, will be joining us here before too long. He should be joining us shortly. Hey, let's talk about Pest Pro services.
I've got some good news with Pest Pro.
Oh, really?
Well, for them, basically. Yeah. Well, I used to do 99% of our business with Pest Pro, but we had a person that we knew that always took care of our personal pest control problems at our house. Well, he retired. And so I was able to call Ashley yesterday and talk to her about that, getting that set up. And then also talk to you a little about my mom, getting them set up with my mom as well.
Good.
So, and it was so cool because it was one phone call. And of course I deal with them a lot, but I got to go through just like a normal customer. We got to set it all up. Literally within 5 minutes, it was done. Both of them were done. A couple minutes later, I got a call from technicians letting me know when they were going to be there.
That's awesome.
I'm telling you, man, customer service, better than Chick-fil-A. I'll give it that.
And they can, of course, do residential, but
Yeah.
also new construction, or maybe you've got a commercial place.
Yeah, they do commercial.
They can do all of that there at Pest Pro, and it could be basic protection. They also have great termite protection services. You should be getting on top of that, like right now.
Right now?
Yeah, you're a little late to the game. Don't play with that fire. They will eat through, and you won't even know it, and you have a much more expensive problem. And, of course, termite season isn't the only thing. You have mosquito season coming upon us.
That, and you're going to get the creepy crawlies. Once it gets so hot and dry here in Alabama, the creepy crawlies, or it'd be like cucarachas or those little silverfish, I think they're going to start millipedes. They're going to start coming in, scorpions.
Oh, and by the way, the wasps are after me.
Yeah.
No, yesterday.
Is that right?
At like 2:50, like 10 minutes left in the show, I kind of look up and go, is that a fly? And I kept going. And Pamela walks in.
Yeah.
And we both look up and we're like, no, that is the strangest, because it had the abdomen hanging down and stuff, but it was smaller and it was like black and silver.
Guinea wasp.
Yeah. And she luckily hit it with Lysol. It started moving. I was about to smack it with the blanket and stomp on it, and it disappeared.
So it's somewhere?
Yeah, it just disappeared. And I'm like, I need to call Ashley and Pest Pro like right now. Like they're after me.
I think you got something there, Joey.
Seriously. Like, and I can't tell you how many times in Forest Hills in that house, and I'm like laid out on the couch, relaxing and stuff, and then it's just a massive brown wasp.
Yep.
Like, if that's the most, it's one thing outside. Like, whatever.
You kind of
just keep on
it,
walking
right.
and like whatever. But when I'm laying in my own living room and this is like
in your fortress of solitude,
like a 1 pound wasp up above me. Like, anyway, if you're getting freaked out, if the wasp are after you, Pest Pro Services can also take care of that. Call them up today, like Eddie just explained, 265-9990. That's 265-9990. Or you can always go to ppsriverregion.com or just search for Pest Pro Services on the Book of Faces. When you want to know, call a pro, Pest Pro Services, and be sure to tell Ashley and that great team that Joey and Eddie, those fellows on the radio, sent you. Should have Jeff Deist here on the stream after this.
Broadcasting from the Riverside Chevrolet Master Control Center, this is WACV Cusana, News Talk 93.1 FM. When it's Chevy, it's Riverside.
With SRN News, I'm John Scott. White House National Security Advisor Mike Waltz is leaving the Trump administration just weeks after it was revealed he added a journalist to a signal chat being used to discuss military plans. A federal judge has barred the Trump administration from deporting any Venezuelans from South Texas under an 18th century wartime law. U.S. District Court Judge Fernando Rodriguez Jr. is the first judge to rule that the Alien Enemies Act cannot be used against people who the Republican administration claims are gang members invading the United States. Planned nuclear negotiations between Iran and the United States for this weekend have been postponed. They were to be held on Saturday in Rome. On Wall Street, the Dow had 249 points, the NASDAQ Composite up 372. This is SRN News.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
They told us nothing but lies.
These timeshare thieves out there are terrible.
They bullied us.
Our timeshare is all a scam.
They stole from us. They were thieves.
I was completely taken advantage of.
Hello, I'm Chuck McDowell, founder and CEO of Wesley Financial Group, and I know the tough spot you're in. Are you asking yourself, why did I buy that timeshare? I'll tell you why, because that presentation wasn't a normal sales pitch. It was a show to convince you that timeshare is a great investment. They told you it was available today and today only. They said you're foolish if you don't buy, and unfortunately, you believed them. We get over 3,000 complaints a week from folks just like you that were misled into buying a timeshare. Give us a call. I guarantee you, if we take you as a client, we will cancel your timeshare or you'll pay nothing.
Call now for your free information kit. 800-989-1771. 800-989-1771. 800-989-1771.
Rich Thomas Weather is brought to you by MPM Feed and Seed. It's time to get those gardens ready. From seeds to plants to fertilizer, MPM has what you need. Shop MPM Feed and Seed in Prattville, 1313 Highway 31 North. Open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, Saturdays, 8 to 1.
Rich Thomas Weather. We've been talking about some weather changes as a cold front approaches the state. Today, though, relatively routine. Another very warm day on this first day of May with a high in the upper 80s and maybe some spotty, widely scattered afternoon showers, maybe a thunderstorm. Then tonight, scattered showers and thunderstorms. Mild, overnight low temperature 65. The showers and storms will be in greater numbers on Friday night, and again on Saturday afternoon as a front enters the state and then stalls. Friday's high 84 will be up to around 80 on Saturday and Sunday, and noticeably cooler by Sunday night. Jacket weather again with the overnight low temperature in the mid-50s. From the Blue Water Weather Center, this is Rich Thomas.
1819 News.
The Alabama Senate has passed one of the two state budgets for 2026, despite the fact that delayed tactics were employed by Democratic State Senator Roger Smitherman. The state's general fund budget is for $3.7 billion. Smitherman slowed down the entire day within the state Senate in passing that budget by requesting that the entire 135-page budget be read aloud on the Senate floor. That took 4.5 hours out of lawmakers' day, with only 4 days left in the legislative session. I'll be back with more Alabama stories after this.
Some of the greatest blessings is just having people that care about you, to have someone that's just going to love you and make you feel important. They encourage you to be in church. They encourage you to be in prayer. They encourage you to be in your Bible. Now it's a part of my day every day. My house parents planted seeds in me that you can see where those seeds have sprouted in my life and helped change my life.
Big Oak Ranch, a Christian home for children needing a chance.
A bill was killed in the state Senate late Tuesday night. It was being offered by State Senator Shay Shelnutt and would require that any sex education within public schools in the state also include concepts of sex risk avoidance. Those concepts include teaching abstinence as well as information about the cost of a pregnancy, childcare, abortion, adoption, and other parental responsibilities. Shelnutt says his bill would teach all the harmful effects of sex outside of marriage. Democrats debated the bill until the Senate adjourned just before midnight. Priceville police made 2 separate drug busts this week, and now a Birmingham man and a Sylacauga man are facing drug charges. Police seized psychedelic mushrooms, marijuana, meth, and fentanyl from the 2 busts. 26-year-old Laniel Brown and 50-year-old Christopher Jackson are now being held with bond in the Morgan County Jail. I'm Andrea Tice.
For more news affecting Alabamians, go to 1819news.com. And while you're there, subscribe to the daily newsletter.
This hour of News and Views is brought to you by our good friends at Cole Plumbing, 279-8919. Cole Plumbing is number 1 in the number 2 business. You don't have to dig a hole. They have proprietary pipelining technology. Ask them about their tankless water heaters. Remember, when you have trouble with your bowl, call on Cole.
It's time to show Mom how much you appreciate her with a Jenny Lynn's floral creation for Mother's Day. Skip the grocery store flowers and make one quick call. 285-1000. Roses, lilies, beautiful bouquets, and gift baskets designed just for Mom. Call Jenny Lynn's Creations 285-1000. The views and opinions of the following program are solely those of the host and other contributors. These do not necessarily represent those of Liberty Acquisitions 825, Blue Water Broadcasting, its management, staff, or any advertisers. It's time for Montgomery's conversational radio show. It's News and Views on News Talk 93.1 FM. To join the conversation, call 272-9228.
Fugazi. You know what Fugazi is? No. Fugazi. It's a fake. Yeah, Fugazi, Fugazi. It's a wazi, it's a woozy, it's a fairy dust. It doesn't exist. It's never landed. It is no matter. It's not on the elemental chart. It's not real. Right? All right.
Conduct yourself in a democracy. Joey Clark.
Welcome back. Final hour of the program here. Been a pretty fun, crazy show. Good day. Always a good day. We didn't hear earlier, was able to go give away two $2,500 scholarships in my mother's name. We have a little endowment there at Montgomery Catholic. And honestly, I'm not used to doing such wholesome things, but 2 beautiful young girls, bright, working hard, great GPAs. It's cool helping folks out like that. And this afternoon, get to go see my little niece up there in Auburn. My brother's in town, so it's going to be a good time. But of course, the conversation continues, and joining us now, love having this gentleman on as a regular guest, Jeff Dice, former chief of staff for Ron Paul, president of the Mises Institute there in Auburn, Alabama for a little while. And of course, he's now, I believe, general counsel at Monetary Metals. Jeff, how you doing today?
Joey, great to talk to you.
Yeah, good to see you. I'll be up in your neck of the woods here within an hour or two. I'm looking forward to seeing my brother and the little niece. And it's stuff like that. You know, I'm not obviously a parent yet, but just being the uncle and hearing how it's changed my brother having a little girl, the questions of war become even more, I think, the stakes become higher. And so I'm just flabbergasted by, for instance, these recent attacks against Steve Witkoff. It's not like the Trump administration is going full Ron Paul. They're more going, I guess, like realist. And even just this realist approach with plenty of stick being threatened, you still have the neoconservatives freaking out. What do you make of Witkoff? And then what do you make of these attacks against him?
Well, they always freak out. And let's not forget that George Bush Sr. Ran on the policy of a kinder, gentler America. And then George W. Bush ran on a similar policy of a disengagement, disentanglement. And then, of course, both administrations went a very different direction. Bush Sr. invaded, via Kuwait, and then W. Bush became basically the neocon wet dream presidency and surrounded himself with some of the worst people who have ever been in any presidential administration in modern history. Trump has also surrounded himself with some of the worst people ever to be in a modern presidential administration. And so the problem with Trump is that his biggest virtue is also one of his greatest faults. His biggest virtue is that he's not ideological, and he doesn't see the world through these reflexive lenses with which the neoconservatives do. That's also one of his worst faults, because it makes him an ad hoc person. It means that he's susceptible to flattery, and he often takes the word of maybe just the last person to catch his ear on an issue, or the most persuasive person to catch an ear on his issue. So we have to constantly try to push this president, and through our elected representatives to the extent we can, back to what he won on, what he campaigned on, what got him huge applause back in those big summer rallies of just last year, which was not, engaging further with the Ukraine and Russia, in getting out of Afghanistan, at least praising Biden for his cumbersome process there, for not expanding Israel and Gaza, for not going to war with Iran, for not saber rattling with Taiwan and China. And so it's just, Trump's like a child. He's like a child at Chuck E. Cheese's, and he's zigzagging between all these various, funhouse diversions. And we got to try to do what we can through social media, even, to keep him on track and sticking to the foreign policy that won him this election. It was domestic concerns that won him this election. It was not this neoconservative desire to be bossing around, Iran, for God's sake. I saw, I think, a Tom Woods tweet earlier today. Do we call them tweets? An ex-post?
Yeah,
a missive from Tom Woods that said, Iran is about number 10,000 on our list of problems in the United States of America right now. And I think that's so incredibly correct.
Well, and, with the pick of Steve Witkoff as sort of the special envoy, it seemed to me Trump was going to go with a guy who's known for decades. And I think even Witkoff in a Tucker Carlson interview said, I wanted to be Trump. They're like that close to one another. And it seems like he picked more a trusted long-term friend, not necessarily somebody from the usual foreign policy crowd. And to me, that gives hope. And it's probably why Witkoff's being hammered right now, from Douglas Murray to every other neocon outlet.
Right. Well, this, again, we go back to this question of expertise. We ought to appoint people who have all the expertise. Well, where has that gotten us? What did that get us in the 20th century? I want people from outside the political class at every level of government. And that means, I'll take a Tommy Tuberville, for example. I want people from outside the political class at every level of government. That starts with Donald Trump, who absolutely does not come from the political class. And that is one of the most astonishing elements of his victory in 2016. And we are just now beginning to study and understand what it really means that Trump won, regardless of where you stand politically. I don't care. I mean, just understanding the phenomenon of Trumpism we're still not getting it. And so I applaud him for, appointing anybody outside of the usual. And what the neoconservatives mean is that he had the audacity to appoint somebody who's not under our direct spell. And, we're just sick of it. We're absolutely sick of these wars. We're war weary. We're friggin' broke, mildly. And, and there's a lot of lingering effects. There are a lot of lingering effects. For example, VA care. When we owe lifetime VA care to the young men and young women, almost boys and girls in some cases, who come back with mangled limbs and psychological PTSD problems. A lot of people who might have died in older wars, given the level of battlefield medicine, let's say in World War II, they've never come back. Now they do come back because we've advanced, we've progressed in medicine, but they're still not able to lead just entirely normal lives. So it's not just the debt, it's not just the lives lost, it's not just the money spent, it's that it just creates a mentality in America where war comes home, and we start to become indifferent to human suffering and casualties. We start to imagine with this grandiosity that we have this powerful military and we can just remake whole societies. We turn our local police into these sort of militarized, roided up, padded up guys with paramilitary costumes and a lot of excess military Humvees and armored vehicles. A small town police force in Alabama does not need armored vehicles. They need, it's Mayberry. They need Sheriff Griffith with a 38 on his hip.
Right.
And So there are so many ways in which this neoconservative mania for controlling the world, flows through American society in other ways.
Well, and on the effects of war, I didn't think about it. Certain units, divorce rates went over 90%. I mean, so it's like family formation, like the basic things that hold together a fabric of society, like those basic relationships, they're put on immense strain to the point of breaking.
Well, yes, and let's not forget these deployments. Not so much now; they've slowed down. But in the 2000s and 2010s, these deployments, multiple deployments, were years and years and years. Oftentimes, these were National Guard people or State Guard people, even, which really ought to be militias under the exclusive control of the governor of a state. They should never have been used for federal purposes. I'm sure you're familiar with the Defend the Guard bill working its way through a lot of state houses. And Kay Ivey, take notice. By the way, that's your militia, not Trump or anybody else's. But nonetheless, I know a couple of Vietnam vets, one of whom is a very, very, very successful businessman. And he says, as bad as it was a year. It was a year. He was drafted. It was a year. That's unthinkable. My great grandfather was in World War I, and he went to France, and he stayed a little bit afterwards for the cleanup after the Allied victory. And his entire period in the U.S. Army was like 18 months.
Right.
And now we just have these guys going on these multiple deployments, and it's a very different world today. And we have this professional military, hardly any, obviously no conscripts, but also hardly any rich kids. Let's just put it that way. And it's almost like we have this private mercenary force that's just available to us to go do this dirty work. And it is absolutely shameful how our Congress, our elected officials, and our presidents have allowed these undeclared wars to go on and on and on, in wars that their own kids are not fighting in. Let's say Hunter Biden was not having to worry about an IED in Iraq, let's just say. And I mean, if we cannot express through Trump's election in 24 that we're just sick of it, what does it take? These wars are deeply unpopular. I would argue the entire post-war consensus was never really a thing. It was an elite imposed narrative. And whenever Americans actually had a chance to vote on anything concerning it, they voted no.
Right.
And yet we never seem to have any ability as common citizens, as our one single vote through our U.S. House, whatever it is, to affect this maniacal foreign policy that and we have to listen to this effeminate British creep Douglas Murray lecture us. Get the hell out of here.
Well, and it is interesting. A guy who starts his career, who writes a very interesting book about Bosie, Oscar Wilde's lover, somehow tries to be a new Christopher Hitchens. And as much as Hitchens could be bad on some of this stuff, at least Douglas Murray's new Christopher Hitchens.
I have a new rule, which is that whenever you hear a British accent, subtract 10 points of IQ instead of add, because they've been living off the fumes of that British Empire a long time. It's time for them to shut the hell up.
Amen. Yeah. So, I was thinking of like this generation that went through, who served, who are the veterans of Iraq and Afghanistan in this period you were just talking about. And I was looking around that big live 2-hour cabinet meeting Trump put together yesterday, and I see JD Vance, and I think JD Vance actually gets it. And it gives me a lot of hope that some of these folks in their 40s, maybe even early 50s, realize the actual cost of this stuff. They have a very different perspective than, say, the boomer who watches NBC Nightly News and is like, yeah, bombs away. Those are the bad guys. Go blow them up. Do you have that same hope for Vice President Vance? And I'll throw another name, because the news came out today that after Mike Waltz is fired as National Security Advisor, Trump has now nominated him to be the ambassador to the UN from the United States. And he's now named Secretary of State Rubio as his interim national security advisor, in a way, maybe a tip to saying we really are going to try this diplomacy thing. What do you think of Vance and sort of this new generation coming up? And even somebody like Rubio, who years ago I would yell and scream about, so far he seems to at least be carrying the water for peace.
Well, they are certainly relatively young in D.C. terms. I believe Rubio and the vice president may be early 40s. Is that correct?
I think so.
And I think Tulsi Gabbard is perhaps a few years younger. So that, I think, is encouraging. I personally think the U.S. House should be full of 30 and 40 somethings. The U.S. Senate should be full of 50 and 60 somethings, and that's about it. We don't need these 70, 80, 90-year-olds. It's just they just don't have the right future orientation, and we need to vote them out. Presidents perhaps a bit older. So I do like that. I guess Rubio and Vance and Tulsi Gabbard would be older millennials, if I'm getting that right. So that's encouraging just for a different perspective. Vance was, of course, in the Marine Corps during those Iraq and Afghanistan years, so he has some perspective on that. Same with Tulsi. And Rubio is certainly better now in terms of his rhetoric. I don't know about his actions, better now than when he was a senator. So, the irony here is that Trump is almost as old as Biden, and yet he's tapped into a much youthier thing on the right wing, and especially young men on the right. So, I'm absolutely encouraged about that, because the boomers are going to ride off into the sunset without ever really paying the bills, and they've saddled some younger generations with that, and that's not right. And it's time for them to stop making decisions that saddle those younger generations, to put it mildly.
Yeah, indeed. And now, one thing, shifting gears here, it's something I see you post or tweet often. It's something I've heard you say too. You often say pushback is not push. And could you just explain that to maybe folks who haven't heard that phrase before? Pushback is not push.
Well, yeah, I think obviously Trump represents the great pushback. Brexit represents the great pushback. Some of these populist anti-immigration movements in Europe represent the great pushback. And what that means simply is that we have a lot of this whataboutism or both sides-ism in our political rhetoric. Well, the worst conservatives, they're Nazis, and it's just absolute nonsense, because progressives have run everything. I would argue since at least the progressive era in American history, beginning in the 1880s, but certainly since the 1910s and 20s, the Wilson era, and then going into the FDR New Deal era of the 1930s. So we've had basically progressive dominance in the United States for at least 100 years. And that doesn't just mean in the political sense. And we think, well, gee whiz, Jeff, we had Reagan and we had all these right-wingers. No. They accepted the basic progressive worldview of the post-war liberal consensus and everything that comes with it. We haven't had a true reactionary movement in America until Trump. And so when progressives control everything, not just in government, politics, but also in culture, in media, in Fortune 500 companies, in education, in performing arts, in literary arts, in musical arts, in dramatic arts, when you're just seeped in culture so much that you're like the goldfish in the bowl who says, what's water? Well, that's what we all are as Americans, saying, what's progressivism? So when there's a reaction to that in the form of Trumpism or whatever it might be, this idea that you guys are just as bad. Well, okay, but it's a reaction. It's not a woke right. The right isn't woke. The right is reactionary, and I think understandably so, given the environment we're in.
Now, you mentioned Tommy Tuberville earlier, and it's obviously a big conversation here in the state. What will Coach Tuberville do? Will he run for re-election in the United States Senate, or will he run for governor? I've kind of made my opinion known, but on that question, what would you like to see Coach Tuberville do?
Well, and then of course we have Senator Sabin waiting in the wings, and you look at that, and maybe we've entered a new era of celebrity politicians. Arnold Schwarzenegger won in California. Ronald Reagan before that had been an actor. We've had some other celebrities who, Jesse Ventura became governor, and I guess that was Minnesota. And then, Trump, who was a TV reality show star, real estate developer. So this is no longer novel. But when I look at someone like a Tuberville or Nick Saban, I mean, what's wrong with someone who had success in a particular walk of life other than politics? That could be business. I mean, look, Division I college football, that's like running a business. I mean, that is big business, big money, huge headaches, a lot of stress, a lot of pressure. So I think that in that sense, we can yuck it up and say, oh my gosh, football coaches, ha ha ha. But yet both of those men are very successful and very hardworking and very accomplished in the domain that they chose to make their life's work. So I don't look down on that or think that that's somehow dismissive. Like we'd rather have someone who would work their way up through city council, then maybe state rep, then maybe something else to be governor. Like somehow a political path would be more worthy. No. That's absolute nonsense. I'm not a Kay Ivey fan, and I think she. I don't want to go too far and say that she should be criminally charged for her actions or non-actions during the COVID crisis, but close. She certainly should have been thrown out of office and should have lived out the rest of her days comfortably, but in ignominy, and she didn't. We let that slide, and that is to our discredit as voters and Alabamians. And so, I think we should give Tommy Tuberville a chance. And we should also understand that we're very blessed to live in a state of about 5 million people, which is about the size of Norway, by the way, if you want to compare. I mean, that would be a small country in Europe. And as a result of that, we have a lot more access to, or if we choose to reach out and touch our elected officials, to get to know them, to participate, to be involved in our cities and towns. And, at the national level, you get almost a hopeless feeling because like, oh my gosh, what can I do to influence what's going on up in Congress with all these lobbyists and all this big money, and the two parties have such a stranglehold. But at the state level, that's very different. And I mean, I've run into Tommy Tuberville at CVS. Yeah. Because his wife lives in Auburn, and this is back in the day. And I said, hey, don't count out Doug Jones. Don't treat him too lightly. I know that you're worried probably more about primaries, but I mean, so it's just different in Alabama. There things are a little closer to the bone, a little more personal, and there's some other people talking about running for governor on our side, whom I prefer to Mr. Senator Tuberville, but we'll have to wait and see.
I've said that I like where he's at in the Senate and that he should stay in the Senate unless he actually runs on some big, bold platform. I would hate to see Tuberville, who I like very much in the Senate, just take his name, which is worth gold at this point in this state, and just stamp it on top of what we've been doing in Alabama for so long. I think that would be kind of a shame. And he said he'll have some official announcement one way or the other, running for Senate or running for governor at the end of this month. We'll see.
Well, and let's keep an eye on our mutual friend, Glenn Jacobs, up in the fine state of Tennessee. There are a couple of rumors swirling around that he may have opportunities for higher office as well.
I need to reach out to Glenn. I've never had a conversation with him, and it also being a bit of a wrestling fan, it'd be fun to have Glenn on. And I know he's also brilliant. All that time on the road, you get all this time to read books. So you could be a wrestler with a big old mask on, but you could read a lot of economics and political philosophy at the same time.
Absolutely.
And one last thing before I let you go. I've been talking about this a lot with Judge Knapp. But what do you make of the passing of Pope Francis and where the Catholic Church might go next? I saw Steve Bannon on Piers Morgan's show talking about there might be a schism if they go with some ultra progressive again. But I mean, what's your read on this whole conclave coming up?
Well, my read on this is informed almost entirely by my wife, who is a very devout and Latin Mass Catholic. And let's just be glad she's not on your show today, because the audience might not get the most Christian earful. But she informs me that despite his kind of aw shucks, nice guy pose, that Francis was actually very methodical in putting his own people into the positions that will be voting on his successor. And so she is of the mind that they will probably, just as the nature of this goes, choose the first African pope, but that pope will likely be a progressive. And most of the African pontiffs and bishops and such are actually pretty conservative in the doctrinal sense, not in the political sense. And so I don't know, but it's clear And this has been throughout history. You can go back and read about the papacy, but it's clear that that position has a geopolitical impact, almost like the Dalai Lama or someone like that, beyond simply being a leader to Roman Catholics worldwide. There's a political element to it, a diplomatic element to it. And so I guess all of us, even those of us who are Catholic, should care about who is the Pope.
Yeah, no, and I've had some of my audience members, of Protestant stripe, annoyed with even the conversation, but I think I've made a similar point you just made, that the Pope has this symbolic, outsized symbolic nature to it, that even if you don't respect the authority of the Pope here on earth as the Vicar of Christ, that there's some role to be played there, and there's something to be said if it reminds us of a Western civilization that once was. It stretches back centuries, if not thousands of years. And it's kind of like seeing the coronation of a new king in England. I'm not British. I don't really care about the monarchy, but there's something about these institutions that still draws my eye and a little bit of wonder, like, okay, we can actually feel the tradition here when these things happen.
Yes. And I think that feeling as a product of a Western culture, a Western civilization, a Western upbringing is quite natural. And I think it's the progressive urge to drive that out of you and me and everybody else, and it, push this blank slateism onto us, where we are all our own Pope, we are all our own monarch, and that's a recipe for a very unhappy and I would submit violent society.
Well, I always appreciate the time, Jeff, and we'll do it again soon. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Joey. Great to see you.
Good to see you. Again, folks, that is Jeff Deist. Always appreciate his time. You can just go to @JeffDeist on X, formerly Twitter, if you want to have a conversation with him and engage with him and follow along with what he's thinking about these days. We got to hit a quick break here. More after this.
He may not know whether he's coming or going, but whether you're going to work or coming home, Greg Budell is there. Mornings 6 till 9 and afternoons 3 till 6. Only on News Talk 93.1 FM WACV.
Since 1966, Alabama Sheriff's Youth Ranches has been more than just a place to stay. It's been a place to belong. For children facing hardships through no fault of their own, our ranches provide more than shelter. We offer a warm home, a loving family, and a future filled with hope. With open arms, we welcome these young hearts, giving them the love, structure, and guidance they need to heal, grow, and thrive in a warm Christian environment. Together, we can give Alabama's children the chance they deserve, a chance to dream, to succeed, and to feel truly cherished. Every donation stays within Alabama, directly impacting the lives of the children who need it most. Join us in making a difference. Visit AlabamaSheriffsYouthRanches.org. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and download our app from your app store. We'd be honored to have you as a part of our mission to lift up Alabama's youth. And remember this, it's easier to build boys and girls than to repair men and women.
For too long, Alabama's statewide news companies have shamed us for our conservative Christian values. Alabama deserves a news company that cherishes our culture, a company that isn't bought and paid for by the powers that be. 1819 News is that company. Run by Alabamians for Alabamians, 1819 News celebrates what is good and beautiful about our state, while exposing those who work against our values in secret. Just go to 1819news.com to learn more. Subscribe to our newsletter. That's 1819news.com. This hour of News and Views is brought to you by our good friends at Cole Plumbing, 279-8919. Cole Plumbing is number one in the number two business. You don't have to dig a hole. They have proprietary pipelining technology. Ask them about their tankless water heaters. Remember, when you have trouble with your bowl, call on Cole.
Looking for a fresh, satisfying lunch? Look no further than Epicure and Jack's Tavern. Dive into their special lunch menu featuring 3 dishes for only $9.99 for seniors and $13.99 for others, complete with a drink and bread. At Epicure and Jack's, they pride themselves on creating every meal from scratch daily. No fast food, just real food that warms the soul. Stop by Epicure and Jack's Tavern today and savor the difference.
This hour of News and Views is brought to you by our good friends at Cole Plumbing, 279-8919. Cole Plumbing is number one in the number two business. You don't have to dig a hole. They have proprietary pipelining technology. Ask them about their tankless water heaters. Remember, when you have trouble with your bowl, call on Cole.
Rich Thomas Weather, a service of Riverside Chevrolet Wetumpka. If it's Chevy, it's Riverside. Best price, best selection. Check them out on the web at riversideusa.net.
Rich Thomas Weather.
We've been talking about some weather changes as a cold front approaches the state. Today, though, relatively routine. Another very warm day on this first day of May with a high in the upper 80s and maybe some spotty, widely scattered afternoon showers, maybe a thunderstorm. Then tonight, scattered showers and thunderstorms. Mild, overnight low temperature 65. The showers and storms will be in greater numbers on Friday night, and then again on Saturday afternoon as a front enters the state and then stalls. Friday's high 84 will be up to around 80 on Saturday and Sunday, and noticeably cooler by Sunday night. Jacket weather again with the overnight low temperature in the mid-50s. From the Blue Water Weather Center, this is Rich Thomas.
CB&S Bank has digital banking solutions to help you keep up. Check balances, pay bills, and much more. Learn more at cbsbank.com. Charges and fees may apply from your cellular service provider. Contact your service provider for information. Member FDIC.
If it concerns your community, you'll hear about it on News Talk 93.1. News Talk 93.1 FM WACV.
Joey Clark.
Welcome back. Eddie Bader had to run real quick. See you tomorrow, big boy. But Byron Sheehy still here in the studio with me. Mm-hmm. And one story, I should have brought it up with Dice, but it's just got my imagination going. So this huge election that was very, very disappointing in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Where Pierre Poilievre not only doesn't get the majority to become the new prime minister up there, he like loses his seat. Incredible fail. And Mark Carney, the big globalist liberal, former, I think, head of Bank of England or something like that, who's like this corporatist Green New Deal type. Like he's just, and maybe he talks this over the top game and he's a little more reasonable behind the scenes. I don't trust that though. So the liberals have this huge victory up there in Canada. And a lot of folks saying Trump didn't help by constantly doing the trolling of our 51st state, yada, yada, yada. But then again, every time Trump is trolling, you have to go, yeah, but there's always a little bit of a serious thing going on. So what if Trump knows he's never going to get like all of Canada as a 51st state? That'll never happen. What if Trump is thinking about a province?
So I thought about that a little myself. What makes us think that that province wants to become the 51st? Why wouldn't they just want their own sovereignty?
Well, that's a good question. But even if they get their own sovereignty and just make a great deal with the United States as a sovereign.
That's where I think their comeuppance is.
So here is the
second in line.
Alberta Premier. Danielle Smith is her name. Short clip, but listen to this. This is the head of Alberta, the big old province where, well, let's say a lot of the industry, a lot of the pioneer folk live.
To the new Prime Minister and the Liberal Party, I have one message. Alberta has had enough. Enough with Ottawa trampling over our provincial jurisdiction like Canada's Constitution doesn't exist. Enough with the meaningless virtue signaling climate policies that only make Canadians poorer and threaten our energy security. Enough of their screw the West, we'll take the rest mentality. Enough with their soft on crime policies that let repeat offenders roam the streets on bail. Enough with their unsafe supply, their open border policies, their censorship laws, the list goes on and on.
That doesn't sound like somebody who that sounds like somebody who's about to be like, hey, we're seceding.
I'll take her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She clearly represents the people there too. Now that's a huge lift, but it's not that crazy. Mm-mm. What, Quebec threatens it all the time.
I want to say I read somewhere they were actually pushing a little bit harder trying to get a vote.
And so whether they go sovereign or they just demand more independence from the central government there in Canada, or they start doing something with the United States, it is crazy. I admit it's a crazy thing to say and to think about. But listen to the leadership there. how disappointed these folks are in the outcome. That's not just like, oh, y'all are liberal and you're weird, the fruits and nuts out in California thing.
Right.
Like the stuff we've heard in this country for years. No. That what she just said is like, we're tired of the fundamental deal we have here and something needs to change. And just as an outsider, as an American looking at this, doesn't seem like Ottawa and Mark Carney and the liberals are going to change.
No,
They have no intention of
I
changing.
don't think AOC or any of those folks are
Right.
going to change. I'm glad to know that we're not the only country on earth that has to deal with crazy people.
Right. And so if you've got a province like, you know what, we have a lot more in common with the United States.
You think we could work out a trade?
Yeah. Well, a full-on trade, like you get one of, I don't think we're giving up any states anytime soon.
Territory.
But I've always found this idea of secession, and I know it's a dirty word in these parts, the Civil War and all that. What I mean is, like, look at more modern day stuff, like the Greater Idaho Project, where aspects, I think, of Oregon,
Northern California,
and they want to just go away. And if you look at it, it wouldn't be just Alberta; it would be other smaller portions of the other provinces there too. Might want to join in if they go independent. Some of these rural province or areas in the other provinces, like British Columbia, might want to join in.
I think that's a lot taller hurdle to get over there, Joey.
Oh, I agree. I'm just saying, maybe this is why Trump is trolling so much about the 51st state.
I just think Canada's an easy target, and it is honest. I mean,
it is
who
fun
was the
too.
comedian that was like, Canada's got the greatest military defense system on earth, the United States.
It's true. So, I mean, and apparently Trump said yesterday that Carney called him and said, let's make a deal. So we'll see. But I mean, I got to hear this again. I want to hear this fiery speech one more time. Again, this is the leader of Alberta.
She's not going away.
Prime Minister and the Liberal Party, I have one message. Alberta has had enough. Enough with Ottawa trampling over our provincial jurisdiction like Canada's constitution doesn't exist. Enough with the meaningless virtue signaling climate policies that only make Canadians poorer and threaten our energy security. Enough of their screw the West, we'll take the rest mentality. Enough with their soft on crime policies that let repeat offenders roam the streets on bail. Enough with their unsafe supply, their open border policies, their censorship laws, the list goes on and on.
And now maybe she's just talking a good game. Nothing will happen.
I don't think she's just talking. Those eyes are, I've seen that look. That's disappointment and anger.
272-9228. That's 334-272-9228. Another clip I've yet to get to here is damn, Stephen Miller went scorched earth.
Oh, good.
Oh, like big time. Like he's not playing. He was at the press conference with Caroline Leavitt. And this is right off like all these latest attacks with 100 days. Because of that marker, there was all these attacks on the Trump administration, and they were also ready to go on their own offensive. And as much as Trump can lead the charge, he certainly can do it himself. Stephen Miller, I think, is his top general. Like, go out there and make it happen, Miller. So this is a longer clip, but it's worth the play just to get a sense of what it was like in the room today at the White House press briefing. And this is Stephen Miller, who I used to have correspondence with back when he worked for Jeff Sessions.
I feel like if they could, do some of that WWE stuff, they'd need to keep him behind the scenes and then have some sort of little sound effect before he walks out. Just let everybody know he's coming.
Here we go.
Our trade negotiations with China. I'll make another important point on this, which is that there's been many complaints about the fact that there are a lot of products that are sold on Amazon that are actually ripoffs of American products that are then stolen by China, and then they take our IP and they put them into products to try to undersell our manufacturer. So to the extent that we are engaged in labeling issues on Amazon, I would say that would be the most significant one to fix, is making sure we're not undercutting American consumers.
And then one on Abrego Garcia, please. The administration is reportedly inquiring about his return. Is that to check a box for compliance, or does President Trump want him back on U.S. soil, or both?
So, as Secretary Rubio said yesterday in the cabinet meeting, this administration is not going to publicly discuss the inside details of our foreign policy and negotiations with a foreign country. And in particular, we are not going to allow a district court judge to try to become the Secretary of State.
See, right now he's very measured.
And this is just, as you can see, Byron, this is just the beginning of the clip.
He's not annoyed yet.
No, and he's about to get himself worked up. I do this all the time, where you start thinking about a thing, you start talking about a thing, and you just keep doubling down, and it grows.
Secretary Rubio is the one who, under his leadership and direction at the State Department, is managing the day-to-day relationship with El Salvador. Let's just take a moment, number one, to express our gratitude to El Salvador for agreeing to take some of the most dangerous terrorists off of America's streets and to put them into a safe environment where they cannot continue to engage in acts of terrorism or coordination with the Maduro regime. You may have seen recently an FBI assessment that was unclassified that said that the Maduro regime is using and planning to use Trinidad terrorists to carry out assassination plots on American soil. Now, very few in this room covered that. I'll let you all ask yourselves why you didn't cover it and why your editors didn't assign that story to you. Something I think you should think about on your own. But this is a earth-shattering piece of news. The Biden administration imported a terrorist army that our own FBI assesses is planning assassination strikes on American soil against critics of the Maduro regime. Those are the terrorists that President Trump is finding and apprehending that our Democrat judges and Democrat activists are trying to keep on U.S. soil. Trinidad has the same legal status as Al-Qaeda and ISIS.
See how the crescendo's building here? It's slowly building.
MS-13 has the same legal status as Al-Qaeda and ISIS. These are foreign terrorists operating on our soil. And our gratitude to El Salvador for agreeing to take custody of these terrorists is immense. With respect to the case that you mentioned, there's now even been more evidence that has been made public of this person's violent, repeated threats and assaults against his spouse, someone who had repeated, documented human trafficking and human smuggling offenses, somebody that has extensively documented membership in MS-13, a terrorist organization, and of course he had MS-13 tattooed on his knuckles. This is a person that was a clear and present danger to the safety of the American people. And it is a sad reflection on the state of our media and many of the outlets represented in this room that you obsessively try to shill for this MS-13 terrorist. Well, no coverage occurred in your papers about any of the Americans that were raped and tortured and murdered by the illegals that Biden was importing into our country. You know, you talk about due process. The Biden administration made the decision to give extensive due process to two Trinidad terrorists that were apprehended at the border just a couple years ago. They were two gentlemen. They were from Venezuela. They were members of Trinidad. The Biden administration Border Patrol apprehended them and made the decision to provide them with extensive due process, put them onto a program known as supervised release, and put them on ankle monitors so that they could go through a lengthy legal judicial determination as to whether these legal aliens who had just set foot on U.S. soil might want to live in the United States for the rest of their lives. What was the result of that decision? What was the result of that choice that was made? Those two men kidnapped a young girl named Jocelyn Ungary from her family. They beat her. They sexually assaulted her. They tortured her. They stripped her. They murdered her, and they dumped her body. That is what the Biden administration's policy was. Most of your papers never covered her story when it happened. To the extent that you covered it at all, it was because President Trump forced you to cover it by highlighting it repeatedly over and over again. He had to shame you into covering it. And each and every one of you that sides over and over again with these MS-13 terrorists, to the extent that you have the financial means to do so, you all choose to live in condos or homes or houses as far away from these kinds of gangbangers as you possibly can. If I offered any one of you a rent-free home with no taxes to pay in any of these gang neighborhoods, and I said your neighbors are MS-13 terrorists or Mexican mafia or Sinaloa cartel or Trinidad, I couldn't pay you to live there. But yet you, with your coverage, are trying to force innocent Americans to have these people as their neighbors, and that one day their daughter may be abducted from their home and raped and murdered. So you're not going to get an ounce of sympathy from this administration or President Trump for the terrorists who've invaded our
country. Woo! Yeah, Stephen Miller wasn't playing today.
I mean, that was He brought the firemen for sure.
And this is the Trump administration on offense. And they're not going to back down. And in fact, this whole like firing Mike Waltz, but then just making him UN, and like it sort of neuters this whole idea that Trump's reacting to the Signalgate thing. He's like, yeah, whatever. I'm going to still put him in a position I needed him in.
Who asked the question that Miller responded to?
I can't remember her name exactly. I somewhat recognize her, woman. But before we have to close out the show, I want to play 2 clips here. Glenn Beck recently interviewed President Trump. The interview's all right. Pretty good interview. But at the tail end of the interview, thinking they had wrapped up, Glenn jumped in. He's like, oh, wait. And keep the cameras rolling on this. I forgot about something. That's just crazy. It's on a personal level. Let's listen in.
The one thing I didn't ask you that I really want to ask you just personally, how crazy is it that you're working with? Can you just roll this?
Let me put this back on.
This is just a personal thing. How crazy is it that you are working with Elon Musk, today's Tesla?
Yeah, absolutely.
And when Tesla died, it was your genius uncle that was sent to try to figure out what papers should be kept.
Isn't it great?
How crazy
Well,
is
they're
that?
excellent. So my uncle was a great, brilliant man, my father's brother. My father was working very hard to put my uncle through MIT and all that. And when my uncle graduated, he was so brilliant that MIT said, why don't you stay here, become a professor?
It's crazy.
Which is pretty good. He 3 different degrees.
Yeah.
It really was amazing. But as he went through life, he was very successful as a professor at MIT, but he was also very successful at other things like discovering genius things. And the United States government gave him an assignment of finding out whether or not Mr. Tesla was the real deal or was he not the real deal? In other words, was he really great or was he just an average guy? And my uncle did a report on it. And you know what was nice? He said he was really great. A lot of people in that position would be jealous.
Yeah.
But he actually said he was great.
And here you are working with today's Tesla.
That's right.
That's so
right.
great.
And Elon's a great guy too.
Yeah.
Great
Okay.
guy.
Thanks.
Thank you.
You bet.
That was awesome, man.
Well, and if you go, well, what is Trump talking about? Well, here's a video of Dr. John G. Trump talking about his role in assessing Tesla's work after his death.
I feel like this needs a documentary or something.
I know, man. And by the way, I don't know if I fully believe John Trump at the very end of this, because what he's tasked with looking into is some apparent secret weapon Tesla had come up with. And what he says is, I didn't find it. But let's listen in. Maybe he did find it and he just can't say. But let's listen in. This is Trump's uncle, his father's brother, John Trump.
Would just be evidence of a secret weapon, which I was reminded by the agents, the 2 agents who were present during the entire time, was a matter of concern to the United States. In the course of this, I did come across a number of letters directed at the upper echelon of the British Empire, that is, I think, to the King and Queen, or perhaps just to the King of England, and also to the Tsar of Russia, explaining that he was the inventor of a secret weapon which had rather remarkable properties, and that he would be interested in entering into a negotiation which would lead to a disclosure of what they were. Of course, I spent a good deal of time looking through these papers, trying to find out what the nature of this secret weapon was. I think I had, although I don't remember it so very accurately, an idea of what its properties were. It had the capability of acting at a great distance, of being destructive to flying objects and things of that kind at a place which was remote from the source. But nowhere in his technical papers did I find anything which revealed an explanation of just how such a device could operate.
So just having that video gives so much credence to what you just heard Trump say, President Trump say. And you got to wonder, the way he describes that weapon is something that could operate from a great far-off distance, take on aerial phenomenon away from the source.
The last part was the fascinating part.
And he's like, I didn't find it in the papers. But say he did find it in the papers. Is he going to tell all of us that he found it in the papers?
Well, when he was talking about weapon, I was wondering, what if you just say the technology? Did he find the technology there? Possibly. It might not have been assembled in weapons form, but the tech might have been there.
This is pretty crazy, though. Glenn Beck that's a cool parallel that Beck pointed out, that you have this connection.
Yeah, that was cool to watch, man.
272-9228. That's 334-272-9228. Got to hit this last break. We'll be right back.
Want to carry News Talk in your pocket? Download the News Talk 93.1 app from the App Store. Available on iPhone and Android. Never miss a moment. Download now.
Hey, this is David Little from Tucker Pecan Company. We've been advertising with Blue Water Broadcasting for over 10 years now, and the results have been amazing. Every day we have new customers that come in that have heard us on all the different radio stations that we advertise on. If you want to help your business grow, the best way to do it is through radio advertising through Blue Water Broadcasting. They do a great job in promoting our business and helping us grow our business, and hopefully they can help you grow your business too.
Did you know that radio is the #1 reach platform in all of media? It's true. Call us to find out how to put radio's #1 reach to work for your business. Blue Water Broadcasting. Local folks helping local business.
In May, it's time to save at Pizza Perfect. Get $3 off any large pizza. Pizza Perfect is known for its buffet, which includes pizza, as well as spaghetti, breadsticks, salad, dessert, and drink for only $13. The buffet is available Monday through Saturday for lunch and for dinner on Tuesday, Friday, and Saturday. This month, get $3 off any large pizza at Pizza Perfect on Coliseum Boulevard in Eastbrook. Available for carryout and delivery.
This hour of News and Views is brought to you by our good friends at Cole Plumbing, 279-8919. Cole Plumbing is #1 in the #2 business. You don't have to dig a hole. They have proprietary pipelining technology. Ask them about their tankless water heaters. Remember, when you have trouble with your bowl, call on Cole.
News and talk without the static. The River Region's most trusted voice. News Talk 93.1 FM WACV.
Joey Clark.
Welcome back. Let's go right to the phones and talk to Ray Bowles from Prattville Carpet. Hey, Ray, how you doing?
Man, I am doing great. I had a missed y'all yesterday, but I was knee deep in a bid and looked down and had my phone on silent. And oh man,
I
missed my phone call.
I assumed you were busy, which I'm like, is a good problem for a sponsor of ours to have.
Yeah, and right now I'm actually standing in the produce aisle of Publix. Don't tell anybody.
Yeah.
So if y'all call for a measurement this afternoon, don't mention I'm in Publix. Because I said, hey, I got to run the air and I'll be right back. That's a good thing about owning this.
You get to go to the grocery store real quick.
Well, I got a buddy coming in that I hadn't seen in a year, and he's spending the night tonight. And I said, oh, I'm going to do chicken kebabs.
Ooh.
And Angie said, if you're doing chicken kebabs, you better go into the grocery store. So I said, yes, ma'am, and that's what I'm at. I'm at the grocery store. So if y'all need a floor, call us, 285-8117. Anybody but me will answer the phone, and they'll come back and give you that free measurement. Next thing you know, you got a floor down.
Just that simple, folks. Again, that's 285-8117. They got all sorts of options. You're going to love also the service. Just great guys to work with. And when you call them up at 285-8117, be sure to say, hey, I heard Ray Bowles on the radio. He might be at the grocery store when he called.
Hey, do y'all need anything while I'm here? I can pick you up a steak or something?
No, I'm actually driving up to Auburn. So to go see my niece. She's only a year and a half, and she's talking now. So I'm looking forward.
Oh, that's so great. That's so great. Just be careful for the kangaroo.
Yes, sir. Thanks, Ray.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Yeah, the Roo was on the loose earlier here in Alabama. It was the talk of the town. Pamela Dubuque's here in the studio. Hi, Pamela.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good.
Just okay?
Huh?
Just okay? Good?
It was a good day.
Okay.
Been pretty slow.
I don't want to pry too much.
It's good.
Well, I mean, are you ever feeling like, I got friends, but I feel like I could have more friends?
No, I like having very few friends.
Then this product is not for you. But Mark Zuckerberg, who's, tried to do this rebrand, like he's Mr. All-American or whatever.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I do jujitsu, bro. And it's like, good for you, man. I'm glad that you could hurt me. That doesn't, you're a tech billionaire who can now hurt me with his bare hands. Wonderful. But here's Zuckerberg describing how, well, I'll just let him describe the whole friendship solution he's providing.
Personalization loop kicks in and the AI just starts to get to know you better and better. I think that will just be really compelling.
Yeah.
No.
You know, one thing just from working on social media for a long time is there's the stat that I always think is crazy. The average American, I think it's fewer than 3 friends, 3 people that they'd consider friends. And the average person has demand for meaningfully more. I think it's like 15 friends or something, right? I guess there's probably some point where you're like, all right, I'm just too busy. I can't deal with more people. But the average person wants more connectivity, connection than they have.
Okay. So just buying his argument, fair. I think there are people sometimes that long for like a good kind of old school community setting before we got all these electronics and whatnot.
I do. I think having a village is important.
Right.
Yeah.
But here's the solution.
So, you know, there's a lot of questions that people ask of stuff like, okay, is this going to replace kind of in-person connections or real life connections? And my default is that the answer to that is probably no. I think you know, I think that there are all these things that are better about kind of physical connections when you can have them, but the reality is that people just don't have the connection and they feel more alone a lot of the time than they would like. So I think that a lot of these things that today there might be a little bit of a stigma around, I would guess that over time we will find the vocabulary as a society to be able to articulate why that is valuable and why the people who are doing these things are like, why they are rational for doing it and like, and how it is adding value for their lives. But also I think that the field is very early. So, I mean,
he's trying to start to normalize AI friends and AI like girlfriends.
No.
No. Because that's just a reflection of you.
Weird.
And you don't really know what's on the other side of that thing that's being presented to you.
No.
Well, you don't really know that in normal relationships either most of the time.
Hopefully you do, but
you know what I mean.
No, that is strange.
It's creepy, man.
We already tried this anyway, like our age in AIM chat rooms.
Oh,
when
that was a mess.
Right. It's not a good substitute.
You're bringing back horrible memories.
Actual human
when
connection.
my testosterone kicked in as a teenager, the things I said on there, it's embarrassing.
I don't think anybody was very PG in those chat rooms.
Yeah, but now you get and then you add like all the visual aspect and how it's slowly going to be like haptics to where it's androids and stuff. No. Talk about
if you want to have a big friend circle, go out and make friends the old-fashioned way.
There you go. Well, on that creepy note, happy hour is next. It's great seeing everybody for Greg's 20th yesterday.
Yeah.
It's good. It's a good time.
Made a very short debut.
That's cool.
In and out.
Well, y'all stay tuned. Happy hour with Greg and Pamela. They're next.
Broadcasting from the Riverside Chevrolet Master Control Center, this is WACV Cusana, News Talk 93.1 FM. When it's Chevy, it's Riverside.